Hey everyone, Luke and Party Chums here again to talk about the weekly Shonen Jump chapters. Now, well, I know this is a week late, but because the chapters came out on Monday last week, we figured why not just save them until this week so we have something to talk about. The chapters are on break once again, so no chapters came out today, and they'll be coming out next week.
And this way, we had some time to kind of ruminate over the chapters for the course of a week. So we'll see how that affects the discussion as well.
Yeah, especially one of the chapters which we will get into at some point.
So I think last time we were talking about this, you had like an order in mind for how you want to start.
Yeah, I did have an order. I feel like we should just start with the elephant in the room. So let me bring it up. Ayakashi Triangle. We should just start with that one, get that one out of the way because that one is just totally bizarre what happened.
Sure, sounds good. And hey, Blazing Boy.
Hey, Blazer Boy. Yeah, we're talking about the quote unquote controversial chapter 74 of Ayakashi Triangle at the moment. Yeah. So
Okay.
so looking at the chapter itself, it wasn't oh my Ayakashi, yeah, my Ayakashi. Yeah. Looking at the chapter itself, it wasn't that 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 bad really. I mean, I can see why people would take it the wrong way, but again, context of the chapter itself.
Yeah, but just for those who are unaware, just in case this changes down the line, Chapter 74 of Ayakashi Triangle is the first chapter to come out untranslated officially. And to my knowledge, it's still not up there, right, Luke?
Yeah, it says right here,
Yep, it only went up
Ayaka
to
uh,
73.
will not be published on Shonen Jump. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you were here for our stream last time, hey,
Hey, hey,
Minsel,
hey, Aminsol. Yeah. Just in
if
case
you
you're
were here,
wondering, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, if you were here for our stream last week, we were talking about the Ayakashi anime adaptation, and we actually used Ayakashi's page to show like the chapters were going to be coming out the day after our stream, which means that the website was programmed to release the chapter on time, but it didn't. So we had like a whole discussion about what was going on with that. So do you want to start talking about that before we get into the chapter?
Yeah, I do. And I actually did. I actually asked around a little bit, like, do they get the chapters like in advance? So like the raws in advance, and somebody said yes, the translators do get the raws in advance so that they can actually translate in time. So it's not
That's
all
what I've
done.
been hearing too.
Yeah, so it's not all done on the day the chapters actually go out, which
Well,
is
yeah,
good.
now that would be hard.
Which is good that they we actually have that clarification. But again, they must have sat down at some point, looked at that chapter, and were like, "Is this okay to publish? We need to talk about Fire Force ending this spring or end of winter. Yeah, we'll talk about it in like a little bit. Blazing Boy, we'll talk about it in a little bit.
Yeah, I'd
Um,
love to talk about that, but as far as I know, Luke doesn't read Fire Force.
I do not read Fire Force, but again, if you want to talk about it, just briefly, your thoughts on it ending soon. Yeah, we can do that. Um,
Okay, but
but
let's
yeah,
stay on topic with Ayakashi
let's
for now.
let's stay on topic of Ayakashi for now. Yeah. So again, they must have known, and here's the thing that they could have done. In my personal opinion, if I was the one in charge of Viz or Shonen Jump Plus, this is what I would have done. I would have like sat down and thought like, okay, these two pages that have the controversial moment in them are not particularly relevant to the plot. So ideally, I would have cut them out. I would have cut them out, released the rest of the chapter, and just had a disclaimer saying like this chapter had to have some context removed from it because of uh, XYZ.
I still feel like that would have been slightly awkward, but I guess a bit better because, as we'll talk about, this chapter did have some important story elements. It wasn't like a random filler chapter. It could be skipped so easily.
Yeah, if it was a random filler chapter, I could understand like, okay, yeah, if you want to skip this one, that's fine. But the fact that it had some important plot elements was like it's a bit head scratching, and people and again the context of the chapter is like important as well because people on Twitter have been like screaming like, "Oh, it's that word that we cannot that word that we cannot say. It's that word that we it's that word it's that word." And I'm just there like thinking like, have you read the series?
Yeah, I mean, really, like there were much worse chapters beforehand, and this is, of course, based on our assumption that something's wrong, and the fact that the website says 74 specifically won't be published and the timer's still going. I think it points to that being the initial cause. Because another theory I had, for those who are unaware, is that the digital volumes for Ayakashi were also kind of like removed from the website, to my knowledge. And so there was like a whole thing going around that physical editions might be published through another publisher like Seven Seas or something. Um, and since at the same week the chapter didn't come out, that those volumes didn't come out, I thought maybe there's some kind of rights handling going on. But now that I see the website says specifically chapter 74 won't be coming out, it seems that it's very specifically 74 that they just didn't want to release. And it's also just not on Viz. It's the Spanish translator, from what I've researched. Also, they didn't release theirs for the Spanish speaking audience either.
Yeah, they didn't, and there's like been no like word from Viz or Jump Plus themselves about what is going on. I mean, from eBay, I learned from Bakumon. I learned from Bakumon. Let's say, for example, 5 chapters is released, but Mangaka has chapter 8 or 9 ready, and the publisher, in this case, Mount Plus, they should have seen. Yeah, they really should have seen it, and they could have. Yeah, that's the thing. They could have easily redone it, but at the same time, that's it. That's in Japan, and they have very different standards for what we have. Blazing Boy.
Yeah, and as far as I know, I'm just hoping that this doesn't happen again. I know Luke himself tweeted out to the author to like let him know about the situation. But
Yeah,
I'm hoping that there won't be future chapters with the same scenario because I mean Ayakashi just got an anime announcement, and like in Japan, it's based on current sales numbers. It seems like it's already doing good for its current volume release. It's
yeah.
doing very well. And so if it wants to get bigger over here in the West, it can't really do that without, well, one, volume releases in general, but also the manga releases.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I've seen from like it is going to another publisher. They this is what I've seen from like series. I'll just use one for example that Seven Seas does. Monster Musume. The way they released well, at least the way they released the manga over here for the UK is that they seal the manga up in Velcro and actually put it like out disclaimer. This is adult content.
Yeah,
And I
and
just
I mean they could have done that for this series too, but as we'll talk about, frankly, if this needed a warning, several other chapters needed a warning.
Yeah, it really did. They really did. And also, as well, like, it just baffles me that you can have a series like The Promised Neverland who has no problem killing off kids who are younger than the characters in Ayakashi Triangle, but Ayakashi Triangle's the one that gets censored.
Yep. So I think we talked about the controversy enough. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. Let's get into the chapters because thankfully fan translators stepped up for this one.
Yeah, and again, I wouldn't normally with Shonen Jump series, I would say go and support the official release. But if the official release are going to be, for lack of a better term, cowards, I'd say, well, we've got no choice. We've got to in the words of Thanos, do it ourselves.
Okay, so the chapter this week. This chapter was a chapter centered around the character Lucy. We're getting more with her.
And also, I just want to say quickly, the title of the chapter is Lucy, Detective of the Unidentified, first part, or part 1. What are they going to do about chapter 75? Are they just going to call that part 2?
Yeah, we just pretend it didn't happen, I guess. And to be clear, this isn't like the Chainsaw Man situation where they didn't release it on the Jump app, but they released it on like Manga Plus or something. because they did do that for one Chainsaw Man chapter.
Yeah.
They didn't release it on Manga Plus either. This was that bad, apparently.
Oh, this was that bad apparently. So they didn't release it on Manga Plus, but they released it on Fizz Media just under the age gate. And here's the thing about that chapter, when the volumes came out, that particular volume that had that particular moment wasn't sealed at all. So I just don't get it.
Yeah, and the other thing is that Viz's website is blocked off at age 18 to begin with. I think we talked about that. Like, if you try to, like, for Viz, you can read the latest 3 chapters for free. Same thing with the app, except you can't access Ayakashi Triangle. For that one, you need to be age 18 plus, so you need an account and a subscription. So it's already kind of blocked off to begin with. So I think that's the other reason I think an age disclaimer is almost redundant.
Yeah, it really is at this point. But anyway,
Okay,
let's get into the chapter itself. So it starts off with Lucy remembering the fact that at one point Matsuri came to her. I'm pretty sure it was Shigaraki disguised as Matsuri in his male form, wasn't it? In that chapter.
Yep. It was that.
Yeah, so she's thinking about that, and Lou mistook Shigaran transformed as Matsuri boy as an alien and was enchanted with him. Okay, so yeah, Lucy is a character that doesn't believe in magic and mysticism, but she believes in alien. She's basically, if I was going to compare her to a character, weird comparison, but I would say Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh!
So that is a fair comparison.
Yeah, because Kaiba doesn't believe in the whole magic stuff, but in GX he's like, because I believe if there is intelligent life out there, let's teach them how to draw. So he won't believe in magic, but he'll believe in aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing that I want to say about this is that what's going to happen if there's a point in future in the series where it has this, where see chapter such and such, what if there's a point where it's like see chapter 74? Oh wait, you can't.
Yep. So Lucy's trying to figure out who I think that alien was.
Yeah.
And starts getting some looks for clues in her school, and dresses up in a cute detective outfit.
Yeah. So move aside, Suika. Lucy has taken over the great detective world now in Shonen Jump.
Yeah, she hasn't played detective in a while in Dr. Stone.
Well, she doesn't need to at this point in the series.
That is also true.
Yeah. Lucy is going to do her best to uncover with her own eyes what is actually going on, if this alien actually exists, and she decides like, oh, the best way would be to go to Matsuri's house, which she ends up going to, as she calls it, a Japanese house right with history, and this is where she meets the Ice Ayakashi Reiko, who, for all the people out there who are watching this stream, she is an Ayakashi, she is a spirit, she is not a real girl.
Yeah, which really should be obvious if you've been reading the series.
Yeah, but I feel like we have to point that out. Like, she's not a real girl. Like, I don't get this about people. You can have like a character who's like 5,000 years old, but if they look anything like a little girl, oh, that's bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those niche things within the anime manga world that's kind of hard to explain outside of it.
Yeah. But yeah, so she meets Raiko, and I think this is the first time she's meeting Matsuri's grandfather.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because she says this is Matsuri's family. And yeah, she's Japanese, but the old man's name is Deed, and the girl is a foreigner. Yeah, so she's kind of like getting the idea in her head of like, yeah, this is her family, but nothing adds up here. And then this is where Matsuri comes in. It's like, oh, what are you doing here, being a detective? And she's like, oh no, I can't arouse suspicion. This must be must be seen as the most natural thing ever. And she wants to see her collection of figurines. That's the best thing she could come up with.
Surprisingly, it though works. Matsuri is pretty cool. they're like very cool about Lucy just being around doing these things.
Yeah, just being around doing these things. And one thing I want to say is that one of the figurines, like, have you got the chapter up on the link that I sent you?
Oh, I didn't know you sent me the link. I was kind of
Oh,
going off memory.
I sent you before. I sent you
Oh,
before.
that like old link. Oh yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I could pull it up, but yeah, go ahead. You can say what you're saying.
yeah. That one of the things that I was let me get my thoughts back to inside. Yeah, one of the figurines kind of looks a little bit like Shadow May, like off to the side, because I think it's just because they have the same outfit and the same like color hair.
Okay, let me see. I pulled up the chapter, went over the head by accident. Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. Like the one all the side. I mean, if you think about like all the figures, I mean, all the way on the right side, there's a figure that I guess kind of looks like Shigure, but more
Yeah.
dog-like than cat-like.
Oh, also one thing I've forgotten to say is that if you go up to the point where Lucy brings out a detective outfit first, there's a thought that she has in her head, which I had a really interesting theory about this, where she says
Huh.
the black
The
organization.
organization thing?
Yeah. I feel they are good. I feel like that's not actually going to be something as just like a throwaway. I feel like that's actually going to be important later on. Like,
I
if
mean, that would be interesting. That's not usually something Akashi would do, but I would like that. Just like this random bit of, because
yeah,
it's either like a throwback to some the author's previous work, which I wouldn't be too familiar with, or it's like you said, something actually to come.
yeah, because Lucy, despite her getting things like all muddled up, she's not been wrong about certain things, like the whole like the whole May is a time traveler. I mean, yeah, she's not wrong about that. And it would be crazy if like she was all this was all foreshadowing for what's coming up. Like if she actually has to fight some of these people, she'd be like, I knew it. I knew these people were real all along.
Yep, I mean that would be kind of
Yeah.
funny.
So maybe that one might be the main villain organization, like after May has been taken care of, if the author wants to like extend the story a little bit.
Yeah, which considering the anime is coming out and they feel like, and they're having fun writing the story, I feel like it'll keep going one way or another.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to the main points in the chapter. So we have Reiko saying Reiko and Matsui talking, saying like, "Oh, Lucy's your friend, right? Yeah. I wonder if I can introduce myself to her." And Matsui's like, "Yeah, she doesn't believe in Ayakashis at all. And there's like this one panel here where there's like a speech bubble speech bubble missing. So I wonder if that was. I wonder if not if it had nothing to do with Reiko and it was like that one speech bubble that was so offensive it had to be blocked out.
I don't know.
Yeah, that was the controversial thing. It had nothing to do with what was actually the action in the chapter. It was like that one line that was so controversial had to be cut out, and they thought like, no, we'll just cut the chapter altogether.
Yeah, I mean that would seem even more ridiculous to me, but yeah, whatever. I could see that.
Yeah. So we have Raikou going like, it's so frustrating that she doesn't believe in Ayakashi's, and Matsui's like, oh, just introduce me yourself as my relative. And yeah, this is when Lucy's kind of getting an idea of like, this room doesn't look like a girl's room at all. Which, come on, Lucy, you're in the modern day. That don't be assuming anything. Yes, I know there's a PS4 there, but a lot of girls have PS4s.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is just her way of starting to pick up hints or something with kind of what the saying. But I do agree, it is kind of like saying, I mean, like some girls' rooms I have seen, they can get like almost worse than boys' rooms in terms of like the chaos, and that's coming from me. My work room right now I'm talking from is not in the most organized state.
Oh, don't worry about it. My room's not the most organized as well. I can assure you on that. But yeah, so
She finds a graduation album,
yeah,
and
which
then
we get to see them all as like when they were in middle school, which is kind of I kind of like that, like establishing that they've been friends for a long time, so they kind of know each other's quirks and whatnot. So I like that, like getting a bit of history there, even if it's only brief.
Yep, and maybe we'll learn more about their time in middle school together.
Yeah. So we have Roko introducing herself as Matsuri's little sister, and yeah, and Lucy's like, yeah, but you don't look anything like her. And then and then Riko's like, oh, this is just my disguise. My real identity is a snow frame from Russia. And she brings out
Yeah, I just kind of like how Roachka like completely dropped the story that they were going to. Like in
yeah,
most situations, this is around the time when the character would try to back up their cover story. Like if this was either Spy X Family or I don't know Yozakura, like those spy stories where they're pretending to be somebody else. The characters would just come up with some flimsy, almost hilarious lie to kind of cover up. But then Roachka is just like, no, 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 I'm like a snow fairy from Russia.
yeah, yeah.
Also, I guess it's interesting that Lucy confirmed that Rochka like looks well, basically not Japanese. It's kind of hard to tell with the manga art style that people are different races unless they actually colored the skin in, and even then, sometimes they're like darker skinned Japanese folk.
Well, I guess Rochka might be speaking in like a foreign accent as well, because she is from Russia, so she might have like a tint to Japanese, but with a Russian tone.
It could be.
Yeah,
I mean, again, it's hard to tell in manga terms, but I'm glad almost like the unofficials were actually added some Russian characters to kind of say that she's throwing in a little Russian in between her dialogue.
yeah.
That's kind of nice, and I don't even think the officials have ever done that for Rochka from what I can remember.
No, not that I can think of as well. Um, so we have Rochka saying like, or as Lucy is like, I love the fact that Lucy just has like the magnifying glass, as if like the text is so small for like, or she's trying to keep up with the appearances of the detective. Like, I have to use the magnifying glass, but the text is right in front of her.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of cute. But I do like how, like, when we were first, like, just going over the Raws a bit when they first came out, we were wondering exactly how Lucy could see Rochka. But here, the translations actually explain that to us.
Yeah, they do. So, Rochka explains that people who believe in her existence can see her, which of course, since she's an Ayakashi, Lucy is not gonna be able to see her in a bit. As everyone will soon find out. But since she's transformed into a normal girl, she can see her, and she's like, "Oh, do you believe me?" And Lucy's like, yeah, sure do. Oh, so they're half sisters with a complicated situation, and this is where we get Rochka transforming, which again we've already seen her transform before, like this.
Yes, we
So
have. I've even
so
found the page, and it's way worse than it.
yeah,
Or at least as bad.
yeah, so because Rochka's an Ayakashi and Lucy doesn't believe in Ayakashis, Rochka has disappeared before after transforming.
Yeah, and I do like how even Rochka's surprised by that because she literally tried to confirm Lucy believed in her before she did, but it's obvious she did.
No,
Yeah,
uh,
man, it is really fun.
and of course because she's and again I find it crazy because you would have thought that she would be able to hear her at least, but no, she can't even hear her.
Nope, no, they can't.
Yeah, and this is where we get after a long time appearance, Shigarani Sensei, basically Shigarani as like a teacher explaining everything of what's going on to everyone. So the Octilic loving I cannot pronounce Lucy's last name, had her own beloved pet fairy. All the old sightings of so-called Ayakashi were in fact misunderstandings or otherwise some kind of UMA. So I guess Lucy is a fan of Undead Unluck then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
possibly. I
yeah,
mean, we do know that Shirogane is a fan of Roboco. So,
yeah. Which by the way, catching up on Slight Tangible, getting up there, catching up on Undead Unluck.
Yeah, you're getting up there.
Yeah, I'm up to the fight between Feng and Shin.
Nice. That was like a really good fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I love Shin's backstory as well in the series. Yeah.
I think Shen, honestly, even at this point, is probably my favorite character in the series.
Yeah, I quite like it. I quite like him, although I do like Tatiana as well. Like she's a really awesome character.
True. I feel like they just did more with Shen as a whole. Like I think,
Fair enough.
I mean, we'll talk about him more when we get to Undead Luck. But I feel like Shen is a character that series did better than most because it's a character they introduced early on, kind of gave us certain perspectives on him in different ways, and now giving a whole new perspective in a different arc. While most of the other characters are more like, okay, you're important for this arc, and then we'll casually bring you up every now and then.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
I mean, but again, we'll talk more about that later. But I feel like I'm sorry, not Kaishi, but Undead Unluck's character writings is pretty good, but definitely amateur.
Yeah, it's I can agree with that. It's like some of the series that I've seen, it's probably the weakest in terms of character writing.
Yeah, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and as I said on Twitter, once I've caught with Undead Unluck, I'm bravely tackling Eden Zero.
Yep.
So,
yep. And I'm guessing you're doing that on your own time?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing that on my own time. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Lucy thinks that Ayakashis are unidentified objects, basically. And Kappa and Grey types or underworld ground people, ghosts or gas type. Like, see, this is the kind of thing that I feel like is gonna come up later. Like, these are gonna be like other variations of Ayakashis and not just Lucy's crazy imagination.
I mean, they could, but honestly, I don't know if you're reading Dandadan, but this would overlap almost too much with Dandadan if they went that route.
But the thing is with Dandadan, that's in Jump Plus, so I feel like because it's separate, it's a separate magazine. It's a separate like can of worms. It's not like with JJK and Phantom Seer, like two completely different magazines. So I feel like they could actually get away with this.
I mean, possibly. I mean, Spy X Family, it's technically not in the main magazine, and so it doesn't really lap with Yozakura. But at the same time, I don't know if I would have really liked that from a story perspective. If they start bringing in like legit alien explanations for the Ayakashi.
No, I don't mean like they're aliens. I mean like they're just variation. They're just like variations of Ayakashis, not aliens. And like all the aliens she's actually believed in all this time are just Ayakashis.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would be fine then.
Yeah. So we have them continue by saying assumptions slow are cognitive abilities. Me and my dyslexia. In a way that this girl is the type of people to believe the least in Ayakashis, but even though she has the physical proof right in front of her.
Yeah, I do like Shirogana's explanation, because usually you would expect that the people least likely to believe in Ayakashi would be the stubborn people who just believe in concrete reality. But in a way, the people with delusional realities will stick to their delusions even more so than someone else who at least would be changing their mind with concrete evidence in front of them.
Yeah.
So and then the next couple of pages are hilarious.
Yeah, the next couple of pages are the quote-unquote controversial moments. So we'll try and go through them as YouTube-friendly as possible. But yeah, Lucy believes that Roko is the invisible human type of alien. How that works in her mind, I have no idea. But she starts feeling around for her, and even though Roko is invisible, she's still tangibly there. So we have Lucy finding Roko and touching her in certain places that I'm not going to say, and Lucy is getting is overjoyed by this. That's what I should say.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
yeah.
think,
Except Lucy, strangely enough, just like she can't see anything with her sight or hear anything with her ears, she also can't really feel that she's touching somebody either. So these
yeah,
rules are very strange.
these rules are very strange. But again, this is like the controversial moment that people are talking about, where if they actually read the chapter, they would know, okay, the character is invisible. She's not actually in the room. She's a spirit who's probably about, like, how old is Rochka?
I don't know. She's probably thousands of years old. That's how these
Yeah,
spirits work.
thousands of
At least
years
as
old.
old as that book that she's based off of.
Yeah, thousand years old, and to top all that, she's a character from a storybook. She's not a real person. Like not a real person in like she's not a real person in the sense like Matsuri, Suzu, and Lucy are in the context of the story.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we have and
Matsuri coming back in to check
yeah,
on
and
them.
like I said, even if they felt this was too controversial, they could have easily just cut these 2 pages out, and I don't think people would have cared so much.
Yeah, I mean, if needed, they really could have just. I guess they almost thought it was too much. I don't know. Either they thought it was too much work to either recut out or redraw the story.
No, I don't
But I
mean like
probably could have just had
just not have the 2 pages. So like you go from she's the invisible human alien to Matsuri just being begged to be helped by Roko, and we like just wonder like what happened, but we could guess at probably what happened based on the series itself.
Yeah, but weirdly, even that last page, they might have had to like cut off 3 pages if they were that worried about her being naked. Although even in that case, um, yeah, I guess they could have cut off to like the last 2 pages. I guess if they wanted to do that,
Yeah.
it would have been a little weird because we would have had like non-context with that one panel. But at the
Like
same
where
time, I saw enough it was worth cutting out the whole chapter for that.
yeah, like when Roko goes, that girl's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I get what you mean. Yeah, but again, it's
'Cause
not. But again, like you said before, we've seen far worse from this series involving Rochka.
we really have. So I don't even understand what just happened here.
Yeah, and we're getting bots again, so I'm gonna block that bot quickly. There we
Okay.
go.
Nice.
Yeah. So we have Rochka being an Ayakashi is afraid of human. There's always one. There is always one.
Yeah, actually, a lot of Ayakashi have negative feelings towards humans. I don't know if Matsuri was paying attention to the early part of the story, but
No.
yeah.
When I say that, I mean like there's always one like spiritual being who's afraid of human or fantasy character who's always afraid of humans. So like, have you ever seen the series Squid Girl?
No.
No. Okay, it's about this girl who's a squid, who's a humanoid squid that comes to the surface trying to take it over. And there's this other girl who's like completely obsessed with her, and she's like the one human she's afraid of.
Oh, huh. Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. But going to the end of the chapter, so we have Lucy being like, "Oh, she's not here anymore," and she's like, "A house when invisible alien lives." That's exact. That then what exactly? It's Matsuri, and then this is where we see Matsuri's graduation album, and she sees Matsuri in his male form as the alien that she was. I want to say she fell in love with, basically.
Yep. I don't know, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, and this is where she puts the 2 and 2 together, where she realizes that Matsuri is Matsumi, and then we just
Yeah.
get a random point at the end of the chapter where Suzu is just eating something, and Shigarani is just wondering what kind of spell is that.
Yeah, I mean, so the point of this is that now Lucy has an idea of what's going on, and will probably either she's going to confront Matsuri, or next time she's just going to be stalking Matsuri a bit and like learn more about Ayakashi's indirectly. I have a feeling that's what we're going to have coming up
Yeah,
in the story, and that'll be nice because then we're finally getting Lucy dragged into Central Cast, and Yayu is already aware of things. So at that point, we can just kind of have things go forward from here.
Yeah, move forward, because Lucy was ranked fourth in the popularity poll. So we kind of had a feeling it was only a matter of time before she found out.
Yeah, and looks like Davina Griffin had a question for you.
Oh, let me get up. Hey Luke, explain this to me. I don't know what this is. Okay, so Davina Griffin, basically this series is Ayakashi Triangle, right? It's one of the newer series in Weekly Shonen Jump, in the same magazine as like Dr. Stone, One Piece, all of that. But apparently there was a quote unquote controversial moment between two of the characters in this chapter that was so non over 18, despite the fact that the series is an 18 plus series, that they had to cancel the chapter. So that's basically what it is. It's an ecchi series, not newer anymore. Yeah, Sky said, yeah, it's not newer anymore. I'm just getting it for more context purposes, because it's kind of weird how Ayakashi is not really new anymore. It's kind of one of the more long running.
It's about to get an anime adaptation and everything.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the context about it. Yeah, chapter 74 was so quote unquote controversial that they had to cut it out, even though it wasn't really that controversial if people have read the series and know what's going on.
So we had to rely on some unofficial fan translations to even have this discussion.
Yeah. So yeah, really interesting chapter. Something that we've probably been looking forward to having for a while, and let's hope that chapter 75 is more relaxed, so that we can actually get it. We can actually have Lucy confronting Matsuri about what's going to happen, what's going on, and hopefully she will believe them at this point. I feel like that's going to be like the next chapter. Like they're just going to be like, look, they're real, Lucy, and she needs more proof about it. It's like, how much more proof do you need?
So what should we go into next? I know Blazing Boy wanted me to talk a little about Fire Force.
Yeah, I feel like you can talk about I will just find a picture of Fire Force, see what we can actually do. So you can talk about Fire Force briefly if you want.
Okay, so I'm going to give a bit of context to this. Okay, so Fire Force, made by the same author who created Soul Leader, which is probably one of my very early animes that really got me into.
There we go. That's the best I can do.
Yeah, that's fine. I can work with that. And and SkyZ said the stream's making me want to catch up to I Try even more than ever. Yeah, absolutely do it. It's a good. It's unfortunate the latest chapter is unofficially translated.
Yeah, but we can send you the link to the chapter 74 if you want at some point. And yeah, we're going to be talking about like Mission Yotsukura as well today. So if you want to stick around for that,
we'll be talking about like a lot of the series. Anyway, so for Fire Force, this series has been like in the beginning I felt like a very safe standard shonen, but with like a really cool power system where everyone's superpowers were essentially based on fire, but in a very creative way, and the world building is like a very post-apocalyptic and it's full of mystery, and that was fun. But this last year, 2021, it's when like it was like the grand final arc like throughout the year, and there's a thread going on by like a YouTube podcast series, Project Manga, and they were giving nominations for like what were the best stuff of 2021, and I nominated the current arc in Fire Force as like the best arc of 2021 because it's been a really excellent arc, and I think that Fire Force is just gotten better and better, like since I stopped it from the anime and gone to the manga. So I've been enjoying the series, and the reason that I think my our friend Blazing Boy wanted us to talk about it is because there's been very recently announced that the author came online and said that he has like 2 more chapters to illustrate before the story is over. And so, based on some like really quick math that fans have, because a couple chapters are always done in advance, there's probably like 6 to 7 chapters left, and there's like 2 more volumes to come out. That's been officially confirmed. So yeah, Fire Force is almost done, and I'm not surprised. I think the big question everyone has is how does the series conclude itself? Because it's in its final fight right now. How does it conclude itself at 7 chapters? But I think 7 chapters is honestly good enough for what it's going to do, and I have a feeling I know where it's going, and a lot of people have theorization about where it's going. All I can say is it's really the hints for it have been dropped on like so early, and it's exciting to see everything come to full conclusion by the end of this. Even though there are a couple of cliche elements here and there, I feel like Fire Force, just in the way it's been delivering said cliche elements, just makes it just not generic, but almost like newly enticing. I don't know the best way to describe it, but I think the author wants this to be his last series, and he's going all out
Yeah,
with
he has said.
everything.
Yeah, he has said that it is going to be his last series.
Yeah, and honestly, I think this is not a bad way to end it. I think, if anything, this is almost the perfect way for him to like end his manga career if he wants to. I think he'll be well remembered for this, but he should also be well remembered for Soul Eater, because honestly think that both Soul Eater is a really excellent series. I mean, even between them, Fire Force might be a bit better just based on I like its power system a lot more, and I feel like the author's grown a lot as a writer since his previous series. But at the same time, I think Soul Eater is also great. So I think the author has definitely made a name for himself, and I wish him a happy retirement after this series, and I'm glad that, frankly, so many awesome series have been coming out, but also that somehow over the recent years, between Attack on Titan ending, Fire Force now about to end, and Doctor Stone inevitably coming to its already in its final arc, a lot of my favorite stuff is coming to an end right after like proving to me that like newer manga can easily surpass some of my older stuff that I associate with. Especially those series, because like Fire Force was created by the guy who made Soul Eater, who got me into anime. Doctor Stone made by the guy who made iShield 21, that first interested me in sports series. So yeah,
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing quickly because Red from Control Chaos said that apparently Toilet Bound Hanakuku he's seeing it as like ending soon. He was like, what are they going to do when two of my favorite series are ending? And I was like,
yeah, I can
bro,
understand the feeling.
yeah, bro, this is why I have Witch Watch and Mission Note Sakura, so that when Doctor Stone ends, I've kind of got something to ease the pain. Yeah, yeah, and also I'm gonna just quickly read his Sky Sad's comments. Yeah, I think I stopped around chapter 40, which would be Friar Koshi. Oh, mate, you stopped at like the point where the current main villain was about to be introduced, and
Yeah.
and why the series is called Ayakashi Triangle. He has a great career. Solely is even more successful than Fire Force. Yeah, I can believe that because it's been around a bit longer.
Mhm.
Ayakashi Triangle is by the guy that got me into manga with Black Cat. Oh, right, then it should be right. It should be right up your alley. Then you should really get caught up.
Yeah, I still haven't read Black Cat myself, but it's on the list because I know I think it's in the vault.
Yeah. So is
Yeah,
that
so
everything? Go ahead if you have anything more to say on Fire Force.
yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I'm more. I mean, anything more I could say is very explicit spoilers, and like for anyone who's either interested in getting into Fire Force or trying it, I would recommend starting with the anime. David Productions did it, the same people who did JoJo's. Their animation quality is excellent, and I'm really surprised Fire Force didn't really blow up the way it did. Because like in the most of like best of 2021 lists, I'm not seeing Fire Force like anywhere on the list, even though it absolutely should be. So it's kind of a little sad that it's somewhat underrated over here, but it's still selling well enough in Japan that I think it's a good series for the author to end on.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Um, so is that everything you wanted to say on Fire Force?
Yep, I would say so. Thanks for giving
Yeah,
me a little time to do that.
it's
And Blazing
fine.
Boy, hopefully you were still there, so you could
I
have.
think he might have gone to bed at this point, but
Oh, okay,
he
got it.
could put I'll send him a message saying that you talked about it in the stream. So
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I
And
feel like
Sky said, "I'm anime only. Need to start reading the manga since." Yeah, yeah. I was the same way. I was debating between waiting season 3 or keep going. So I started. But I bought some of the volumes digitally, and then the unfortunate thing is, then after I got the digital volumes that were officially translated, it eventually got to the point where I couldn't do anything current without going into the unofficials. This is another series that I feel like Eden Zero is very lucky in the fact that it's simulpub translated, like um, the Weekly Shonen Jump stuff, because the unofficials do come like a day earlier, but kind of like with Weekly Shonen Jump. But for the most part, Eden Zero is staying on top of its translation, which I think helped its popularity. But Fire Force, the officials are really slow on getting out, which doesn't really help in the conversations like it has with Kaiju Number 8 or Spy X Family. Like, I think Fire Force would be a lot bigger if that weren't the case. But yeah,
yeah,
definitely pick up the manga. I feel like season 3 will be a while because David Productions is doing JoJo's right now.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I might check it out again. I mean, it's been a series that I have not really been that interested in, but I might give it a shot at some point in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I know you have other manga you're catching up on, so yeah, take your time with that.
So yeah, which series? I guess we should go with the newer ones now. So Ayashimon or Dora Dora.
Yeah, yeah. If anyone has any suggestions for people who are actively watching, since you guys are here, we would like to, hear what you would like to talk about, just
Yeah,
in case you can stay the whole time, which is understandable. But yeah, I think for now we'll just do the new ones. Let's start with Duran Duran. I think that's a
Duran. Yeah. So let me get it up. Uh, Away. So bring it forward. Get rid of Fire Force quickly. So yeah, Duran. Let me get it up. So yeah, pretty much pretty much a good slice of life chapter this week for Duran.
yeah. Although even slice of life may not be like the most
Yeah, I
accurate
wasn't.
way to
Yeah,
describe it.
that wasn't the most accurate way to describe me. More like chilled out compared to some of the other chapters that have come out
Yeah.
where we actually get time for the characters to actually just breathe and explain themselves. So
Yep, and I mean, that is nice to see. I think my overall takeaway from this chapter was I wanted some more plot stuff, but I was actually really happy just to see the characters just interacting like this and doing their work. And then I think that kind of points out to me that this is a series I can really get into because I'm already invested enough in the characters.
yeah, yeah, and I agree as well with that sentiment. So we have Ch- uh, Chio bringing um, Ka- Kusamagi, and oh, what's his name?
Dora.
Dora. I keep doing this. Is this just going to be a running gag where I just forget his name even though it's in the title?
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. So we have Chio bringing Dora and Kusamagi to a place that her family owns. Because her family runs a bunch of companies, fine dining, kimonos, traditional Japanese desserts, stuff like that. And I'm interested, like what Dora's expression, like what does she mean by Japanese desserts?
Uh, I don't know. I'm not too familiar, but I just reading Skyzet's comment. Yeah, it definitely needs more plot, but the characters are definitely entertaining. And I will admit, they're not like the most complex characters. So I think I agree with you that normally if a character has like a lot of either mystery or complex stuff to them, like in Toilet Bound Hanukkah, which we brought up earlier, I think the characters absolutely hold up the story to a large extent because there's so much we want to know about them and the way they think and the way they act. But for this series, everyone's a lot more straightforward, so the characters by themselves definitely can't hold it up. But I think what I've learned from reading all this manga I've been reading is that characters are like the foundation of what you got to deal with. Because if like the story is interesting, that's good, but it's the characters. If you're sticking for the characters, whatever they're doing, you're still going to be interested in the story regardless, because you're just happy to be with the characters. Because I think even with like people who are having um, issues with like the last arc of stories, like say Dr. Stone, like there's a few people who felt like things were getting kind of rushed. They were still happy to see all their characters around. I
Yeah,
think that's a
yeah.
good example.
And I feel like that's kind of like something that I think Red Hood kind of dropped the ball with. As much as people try to hype it up and praise it, I feel like the characters weren't the most compelling because people were only mainly focused on like Red herself and just how she could be like the next big waifu.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah, that is very true. I mean,
yeah,
Red Hood was unfortunate, and yeah, let's see, yeah, Doctor Stone's pacing was like kind of a debate. I heard actually plenty of fans, including yourself, who said they didn't feel as rushed. I actually watched a video recently where people thought the pacing was perfect for what the story is doing, and yeah, I'm glad that's just like a certain segment of the fan base is actually like very satisfied with the story because I did think there was more they could have done, and I think most of my concerns with the pacing are more like I don't want the story to be over yet.
yeah.
I
That's
think
kind
Luke's
of
in the same boat as me.
yeah, yeah. Because again, Doctor Stone's my favorite manga, so it's like you can't. So it's like imagine if you knew like I'll just let me just see like some of the series you're reading Sky at. Okay, imagine if you knew Yo's fan was ending, you'd probably be like, I don't want this to end quite yet. You'd probably be in the same boat.
Yeah, and Red Hood's characters, I think some of them had some more stuff going on with them, but we really didn't have the time to go into it. So I'm not sure if I can necessarily say they aren't deep. I mean, they're not like the most complex, but I think they had some stuff to them. But yeah, that's a whole other story. I mean, I would even argue Phantom Seer, which I loved, had like characters they were developing, but they were initially like kind of basic. But I think that was fine for that story because they were developing said characters. But that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. So
We're
anyway,
getting a little off track here.
back to Dora Dora. Um, we have Dora being concerned about Kusanagi being seen by Chion's family before she informs like, oh, it's just me and my attendants who live here, and the attendants obviously have been made aware of Kusanagi, so they're like, oh, we'll chill with you right now. There's no need to hide. She's explained, and I like that. I like that about her. Like she's kind of like seeing like, okay, yeah, these two, despite their obvious lack of talent in her eyes, she is like, yeah, they're not bad. They're not bad people per se, and she can actually trust them, which is nice. Like actually getting the trust factor down right away, and just like no, like I still don't trust them. I'm glad that they've not dragged that out.
Yeah, and I'm also because I think Jin Chio is a character that, at least in first impression, like she was a little all over the place. So I'm glad we're having this moment where she's actually trying to build like a good bond with these characters. Like, and she doesn't come off as some kind of manipulative, like greedy character. She's like actually genuinely trying to be friends with them so they could work better together.
Yeah.
And Skyzed saying, bro, I was thinking about that with Hardboiled Cop and Dolphin for its whole run, was living on edge. I can understand that. When I was reading Hardboiled Cop and Dolphin, it was very weird because the entire time you were thinking it was getting axed, but in a weird way, the author was almost given just enough time to fully conclude their story, which I think was a really lucky break for them. I mean, they were a veteran also with Beelzebub, but it was kind of nice to see that like they actually got to conclude a story. So I think in some people's minds it was considered quote unquote axe, but I think Hardboiled Cop and Dolphin got its ending. But yeah, that was definitely rushed to the end because they didn't want the story there for whatever reason.
Mm. That's a whole different kind of worms, like which could do at some point, like talk about series that were axed and why they were axed for
Yeah,
whatever
we
reason.
could consider that.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah,
but
we have
back to the story.
yeah we have Ginchio taking Kusanagi and Dora to their room and basically making Kusanagi into, for lack of a better word, a plushie, because
Yeah.
we have. I love the fact that Kusanagi is just like sweating profusely as like, oh, I don't want to be pet right now, but uh, I honestly want to know what he's thinking in that moment.
I mean, it's kind of funny because we see in Jinchio's room, she has all these stuffed animals everywhere. And I mean, the other thing I want to bring up is that many people have mentioned that this author has definitely thought about merchandising when he designed these characters,
Oh
which,
yeah.
hey, gotta respect it.
Oh, Jameel White. Hey, oh there. Thank you for thank you for coming. We're just talking about the newer Jump titles, Doron at first right now. So you've come at a good time if you read that series.
And Sky said they concluded the story after throwing away all the plot points they built up. Yeah, I will admit they did kind of throw away a few things here and there. I mean, there was definitely a point in the story where it's like they were setting up for like a whole arc, and the characters literally turned around and were like, "Nope, we're gonna do this instead." And I was very confused. But then, considering where things went from there, it's definitely that the author got the note to, okay, go to the last arc like right now.
Yeah.
Um, but you're right; it was satisfying enough, and I think, frankly, considering all the series that got axed in the year 20, I think that's got axed in 2020, that got off way easier than like a lot of other series.
It might have got axed in 2021. I'll have to check in a second.
I'm not sure because Phantom Seer I know did, but
Yeah.
Carvel Cop and Dolphin, I'm not sure.
We'll check in
Oh,
a second.
I
Yeah.
can just check while we keep.
Okay.
You can keep talking
Yeah.
about the chapter.
So we are so we have not Kusanagi, Ginchio saying, "Oh, I wanted to do this for the first time I laid eyes on
Oh yeah, no, it
Kuchan."
was 2021. It was in the summer. My bad.
Okay. Yeah. So she's kind of being a bit all over the place as well with of her intentions again. Like, yeah, she trusts them, but that's still not gonna stop her from being like all over the place with like, oh, I love you, but I hate you, but I love you as well. Like, I wanted to pet him, but you wanted to kill him at one point. Yeah, there's no need to be rivals. I've gained your trust. Um, so why did you call us here to pet Kuchan? Just kidding. And Dora's like getting like, what? Like, just make up your mind, woman. But this is where we get like her actual true intentions coming out here. That she thought she'd build up trust by inviting them to her house because she's never had anyone in her room except for the attendees, and she actually wanted to ask Kusanagi a very quite a legitimate question here, why he wants to vanquish Monokuna, which is basically his own species, and this is where we get him actually going into a little bit of a flashback of the fact that they some Monokuma devoured the first human friend they made, and I actually had a theory that I told you at one point, like what if one of the Monokune that devoured that the human that was devoured by the Monokune was actually related to Ginchio.
Yeah, because well, one, we have like a bot you can get rid of. Two, yeah, when Jinchio's backstory, like she had a brief moment where she was thinking about a different character she wanted to quote unquote catch up with. So we know there's a character in her backstory that's like largely involved with her motivations. And Luke's theory, like when we were briefly going over the chapters when they first came out, was that Kusanagi may have befriended said character, and that would be, albeit like maybe a little cliche, a nice way to tie in their characters and maybe bring them closer together down the line.
Yeah. Well, no, it can't be. It can't be that character, because if you actually look in the panel itself on page 8 and 9, you see what looks like a small shoe. It seems like it was an elementary.
Oh yeah, now that you say it, that there's also a hat that I think
Yeah. So
elementary school students are wearing.
yeah. So it might be it might be like a sibling of Ginchio.
Oh, okay, that's what you were saying. Okay, my
Yeah,
bad then. I misunderstood what you were saying last time then.
yeah. So,
Yeah, I didn't
well,
even
no,
notice though.
no, I, I've just spotted that myself as well. So I was kind of like getting the thought in my head of like, what if it was actually their sibling?
Okay, well, that could also be the case. I mean, as far as we know, Dora was an only child, so it definitely can't be anyone connected to him.
Yeah, and Ginchio's family is rich, as we've established. So it's it's really likely that she had more that she's not an only child.
Okay, let's see what
Yeah.
else.
So
So yeah, then we kind of get like a moment between Kusanagi and Dora, where like Dora mentions that the desires of Mononoke are like particularly dangerous, and throws that around by saying Kusanagi's ability to stand up makes himself danger to those Mononoke, and they kind of turn a negative into a positive. And then of course Kusanagi tosses it back at Dora, saying it's both our desires. So it's a very cute moment between these characters.
yeah, and then obviously because we can't have a whole chapter. It's like the story went, stop developing your characters. We have Mononoke to get to deal with here.
So yeah, we have to
Yeah,
move the plot along. Phone
yeah.
call.
So we have a phone call being called to say, "Hey, there's a Mononoke adopting multiple humans in a shopping district," and so they hop on Ginchio's bike, and I again love Kusanagi just his shape shifting how he shape shifts into Dora's helmet.
Yeah, I like all these like different things that Kusanagi will turn into. At first, I thought he would just stay as like one thing, like a headphone set or something. But I do hope they keep changing up like what he turns into because it's like a fun little characteristic for the story where he can just turn into some new object each time,
Yeah,
and then it's almost
uh,
like a spot where Kusanagi is.
yeah, like kind of like how you would call him, where's Waldo, but over here it's like where's Wally.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so.
So we have them saying like yeah, Kusanagi, when you transform, don't let anyone see you. It will cause confusion, but remember, protecting the victims is their top priority. Yeah, and Ginchio will deliver the lethal blow. So, like, coming up with the strategy of like, okay, this is what you guys are doing, this is what I'm doing. And now that the tests are over, they're obviously on duty. So so um, no, yeah, so yeah, Ginchio's like, yeah, you're not. Don't count me on saving you. And they're like, yeah, that's been our intention from the start. On the start, and of course, if they run into trouble, that they will protect each other. And when they get to the area, they're like, it was somewhere around here. And of course, Dora doesn't hear anything because he can't hear Mononoke. So Ginchio sprints up and this is quite like a 10-foot drop from like a wall down to where they are. She just sprints right up it as if it's nothing.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
and then from there,
we have the Mononoke actually being found carrying how many people? One,
I think
two,
three.
seven. There's seven people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And the Mononoke is kind of like this one-eyed cyclops thing who has like martial arts ski on them. Not the most original creative design, but still quite interesting. And the fact that there's no resistance when Ginchio actually strikes them, and it's like, this is kind of like a bit of a problem here if they're not resisting before we actually find out what their actual ability is, and their ability is the fact that the eye can split itself into multiple eyes.
Yep, definitely didn't see that coming.
Yeah, so it's kind of. I'm guessing the main body is like if we're just using an insect term here, it's like the queen bee, but that when it splits off, it goes into the whole hive basically.
No, yeah, actually, that would make sense.
Yeah. So we have the motivation for this Mononoke, which was their goal to have 100 victims, and yeah, now Kinchiro showed up. That oh, I find oh I oh 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 my god, I've just thought of something.
What's up?
What if all these eyes here are actually the victims of the Mononoke?
Ah, that's true. We really still don't understand what Mononoke are, to be honest. If they're just like another monster, or if there's some connection to
Yeah.
people through them.
Oh, yeah, because that's what it means. We get the name Hayo Kusuno, which means 100-eyed boy. So yeah, that's probably what they are. Like all those eyes are probably like all the victims is actually consumed.
I wonder. I mean, I
That
could see
would
that, but
that would be an interesting thing to go on because of the fact that technically they are killing humans in this situation.
yeah, they interesting. And the other thing to mention here is that the 100-eyed boy like mentions that Master is going to be angry, meaning that there's like a bigger enemy. I didn't realize this until I saw some comments, but there's like a bigger enemy that we're going to be facing, and that's probably like leading a lot of the Mononoke right now because you
Yeah,
kind of need some kind of big bad in every series.
yeah, you do. So yeah, they say they'll just regenerate later, and they try to retreat, but Ginchio uses the Hurricane Flux, and they try to retreat over the river, and like they're like, too bad you wasted your energy so long, but this is where we get Kusanagi being turned into a fan and actually blowing them back right towards Ginchio, um, who uses the Hurricane Flux again, and that's where the chapter ends. So, like I said when we were
Yeah,
first initially talking about this, I'm glad that we're starting to get away from like monster of the week type thing and actually having enemies that are going to take multiple chapters to defeat.
yeah, same here. And additionally, I like how Kusanagi is taking on more forms than just swords and weapons, because I think that'll allow for more creativity with the fight. Which, like, right now this series, like character wise, is fairly generic based on like even the character motivations and the world. But I think one of the more unique elements of it is Kusanagi's ability to transform into multiple different objects for Dora to use. So they could really use that ability for a lot of creative fights down the line. I mean, as long I'm just hoping it, of course, doesn't decide to go full gag and make really silly things like Mashelwood or something like that, because I would rather this stay a fun battle shonen series.
Yeah, kind of in the same vein as Bleach, sort of.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So yeah, that was Dora Dora. Hopefully, we'll get to see what the boss actually looks like in the next chapter or the next two chapters. But yeah, for now, I guess we should just move on to Ayashimon. Get that series out of the way.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah. So I'll get it up. There we go. So yeah,
And again, guys,
Ayashimon.
feel free to suggest any series that you
Yeah,
wanted to hear.
yeah. After this, guys, we'll uh we'll give you guys free range of what series you want to actually cover because I know probably Sky Sword will probably want us to cover Mission Yotsuko Family. So if you want us to cover that next, let us know. But yeah,
Okay,
I asked.
Ayashimon.
So this chapter pretty much getting the characters acquainted with the first of the major bosses that they'll have to fight from the one from the Emma Syndicate. But yeah, for starters, we have 10 being like, oh hey, big sis, I brought you lunch and some other things. Drink to drink a bunch of other stuff, and they're like, "Oh, when what do you think about this place? Is it comfy?" And yeah, Big Sis is like, I'm not comfy staying in an abandoned bar. Who would be? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Fallbringers from Bleach might be. But yeah, but are you there? Oh, I think I've lost Party Jams. I think I've lost you, man. So yeah, I am going to just quickly continue on here. So yeah, we have the Ayashimon's tidying up the place that was basically trashed in the last couple of chapters from the fight, and now they're all like, "Oh hey, we accept the Big Sis as the boss now," and they don't have anything else got much going on, and Maru isn't doing much help either. They're like well, what is he doing? And yet he's been sitting there reading manga for over 12 hours, which yeah, pretty much just sums up any otaku's life basically. So oh, I have lost him. We're just gonna wait for a second, but for while we wait for him to come back, I will let you guys have the floor if you guys want to say any comments. Yeah, he's just sent me a message saying that he's dropped off, so he probably will be back in a minute. But for now, if you guys have any comments, just let me know while we wait for him to come back. But yeah, Ayashimon, I feel like will be one of those series that will actually become the next big thing. The next big thing. It'll be tough with Doran and Ayashimon competing. It's all about who will actually get the spot eventually. But I feel like based on it now, it might be Ayashimon just because it kind of has that different vibe to it and has pretty much more going for it at this moment in time with then Duran. So we'll just have to wait and see. I want to know what you guys think. Which do you think will be the more successful, Ayashimon or Duran? Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been enjoying Duran a bit more than Ayashimon at times, but that's because I've just been so Ayashimon is just text heavy, and if you read Witch Watch, you'll know about that. So it's kind of like at times like, oh, I don't need two text heavy series to read week after week. And yeah, we will be talking about Witch Watch, but Sky Sword, which series do you want us to actually cover next? Yeah, Ayashimon is the better series, but it's Doro's character that me. Yeah, that's kind of the thing that Pie Jumps was actually saying as well, that Doran even though Ayashimon is it might be the better series, Doran's characters are being more enjoyable. I have an idea of lol first time. I have no idea lol first time hearing about that. First time hearing about what Danny Theo. Oh, and he's back. Hey, you're back.
Hey, how am I coming in?
Yeah, you're coming in fine now. Yeah.
Yeah, I apologize, everyone. I'm not entirely sure why, but whenever I'm streaming from my computer, the internet at some point will just drop off.
Oh,
And
it's fine.
I know it's not the internet's problem because I'm doing it right now through my phone.
Oh, you're doing it through your phone now.
Yeah, I don't even know. Because the internet's not connecting back to my computer. Usually after a few minutes it will. But it's not doing it now, so I decided just to hop on my phone and come back so we can keep going.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just talking about I need to catch up to Witch Watch 2. I stopped after around chapter 20. Yeah, you really do, man, because it's a really fun and enjoyable series. I don't mind, man. The only series I'm up to date with at the moment are Doran, Ayashimon, Yosa Family, Jujutsu Kaisen, Dr. Stone, Black Clover, and MHA. Okay, so I think we'll do MHA next because that's something that we can easily get through as well.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay,
Yeah.
but I'm assuming you're still on Ayashimon even.
Yeah, I am on Ayashimon. So I was up to the point where they find out that Maru has just been sitting there reading manga for 12 hours now, and yeah, that pretty much just sums up the life of a typical otaku. They'll just read manga for 12 hours without any rest, but they'll get so sucked into it that they'll get bags under their eyes, as you see with Maru.
Yeah, I know so many people were saying how relatable they found that. And I think that's the appeal of Mario as a character. Like he's designed to be very relatable to the audience reading the story.
Yeah, he's kind of like the audience surrogate at times. Like this is kind of like, we've beaten up the bad guy. Now let's go. It's kind of like I've done my job. Now let's go and read some manga. Yeah, and then Maru's getting having a little bit of a panic attack because he should have bought the next volume because he was at an exciting part, and then it was like to be continued in volume XXX. Oh, and this is where we get them going out and finding out. Yeah, we've got these guys out here. There's a whole lot of those loitering around, especially for in the middle of the day. And Ayashimons don't like being out while the sun is up, so something must be up if there's this many suits wandering around. And they find out that it's actually from the Emma Syndicate, and this is where we get Big Sis being like, "Oh great, the agent from before must have leaked word of what's going on," and this is where she quickly deduces that Hayashimi is in danger, and Ten is like, "Oh, it's no big deal. I'm sure we don't have anything to worry about. I mean, all the major gangs are keeping each other in check, and if anybody does anything flashy, it'll trigger a war." And of course, as soon as he says that, somebody has to do something flashy by killing someone else. So now there's going to be a war.
Yeah, and
no, he doesn't. He doesn't kill them. Just shoots the ear. It just shoots their ear off. Ear off. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Okay. Hang on.
Oh, and he's gone again. So I'll read your comments again, Skysard. After Dolphin got cancelled, I couldn't be bothered being caught to anything. Yeah, I can kind of see why that may be a bit off-putting, but personally, I don't think series like Ayakashi or even Witch Watch are in danger of getting cancelled. So because they do pretty well in the table of content. And everything. So I think you're all right to catch up on those series. But hey, you're back.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to see, since I'm on my phone, of how I can read some manga while we're talking.
I feel like
actually I was trying to switch between the apps and then it just cut me off again.
All right, what you could do is like get the chapters up on your computer. So like you have your computer up and then just read them whilst looking at your computer.
I would, but then the internet still hasn't been popping back up on it. I don't want to, of course, restart the internet right now because we're doing this, but that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to try one more time to see if I can read the chapters while doing this, because usually it'll let me do that. Okay, am I still coming in?
Yeah, it's still coming in. Can you read the chapters?
Yeah, I'm on the Shonen Jump
Okay,
app.
good,
Cool.
good. We're there. So yeah, I like how he's kind of rich now because he's been defeating all these Ayashimons. Yeah, he is now, but they've not really addressed that in the series itself. It's not that I think they'll be cancelled. The weekly reading experience just takes a hit cause it was my favorite series at the time. Okay, that's fair. I can understand that. But yeah,
and also I apologize if I'm not reading anyone's comments because it's already hard enough to go back and forth between these things.
Yeah, I'll read the comments when they come up, so that we're all up to date. But yeah, so we have the guy who had his ear shot off, like, "Oh, do you have a grudge against us? You think you could get away with this because you're Emma?" And the person that's doing it, have we seen this person before? if I remember.
Let's see. The girl.
Yeah, the girl.
To my knowledge, no. Like, there's a chance maybe she was in the background when we saw the Enma bosses, but I really don't think so. Because I think we saw like maybe 2, 3 other people, but none of them were women. So
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, she's trying to get information about Maru and the big sister, but the guy's like, I've never seen those people before in my life. What you and then the girl's like, oh, what, you haven't? The heck am I doing with you? You're totally wasting my time. And she says something kind of, I guess the kiss of death, but not quite like that. Uh,
yeah, I mean Zephyr I know means wind, but some kind of wind attack,
So like Death Wind or something.
I guess. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't know Japanese enough to be
No.
able to say for sure.
But of course it doesn't kill him, it just removes all his limbs. And she's like, oh, take him back to my lab, I want to play with it. No, I don't want to know what kind of player you're thinking of, woman.
Nope, me neither.
Yeah. And he's warning her like, oh, if you do this, it will start a war. And then she's like, oh, do you think we weren't already at war already? Which is kind of true if you really think about it. They were just kind of like holding out for who was going to strike first.
Yeah, which is actually pretty interesting because even us as the audience, when we were reading the series and how these organizations presented, it sounded like the groups were in a stalemate, and that kind of was the situation in the city. But now we see that Edma was kind of always like ready to take back power, and we're basically just kind of waiting to make a move.
Yeah. So we have explained that Kubichio has been at war ever since like when Kaio died. That whole power balance thing between the four gangs it's total superficial garbage. It's like, be ready for battle at any moment, or else, Mister, you ain't cut out for this life. As we see, someone from a certain syndicate basically rip a guy in half as if he's like just like a piece of construction paper.
Yep. Yeah, that was brutal.
That was brutal. And then if an anime of it comes out, that'll probably get censored.
Yeah, I mean, an anime for this. I think here's the thing though: these creatures turn into money, which was a hilarious discovery. But maybe because of that, they don't have to do too much censoring. I think.
No, yeah,
because
maybe not that.
You don't have to do blood and guts. You can just do money. In a weird way, it's like this author, I didn't read their previous work, but I've heard it was very brutal, and I want to get into it. But maybe they decided to get into the main magazine this time. They should have this system in place so they can keep doing this brutality, but they don't have to worry about the blood and gore because the creature's made of money.
Yeah. And also as well, I feel like they're kind of doing what I said with the Chainsaw Man effects. Like Maru is like a typical shonen protagonist, but once they got that in, they're basically allowed to do whatever they want.
Yep, that is true. That too.
So coming back to the gang on the roof, they try to make their escape and saying like, oh, let's go downstairs, be quiet, and wait for all this to blow over. But of course, we have the Emma syndicate leader basically finding them right then and there. And
that was such a fun twist. I honestly wasn't expecting him to just be there. And I think in another podcast I was listening to, I think Project Manga, like I was bringing up before.
Yeah. By the way, just before you say that, I've got something to say about Project Manga when we get to Dr. Stone that actually I was surprised about that they didn't mention. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So they brought up a good point that this is very nice paneling because, depending on where you're reading the manga, it's either going to be the way you read a book, or you're going to read it up to down. But in this case, the way that Dopo is coming in from the bottom like that, it's a really good page turn moment, and it's very nice paneling, and it's I think it was a nice attention to detail that you can see from a veteran who knows how to actually draw manga.
Yeah, and again, I love this as well because it's like the first time we've seen Big Sis in like a state of like oh crap moment.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty funny because they really, it kind of shows, we see in the next couple pages, like how terrified people are of him
Yeah,
and how like it really does a good job setting him up. And we already know as uh, readers how scary he is from the last chapter. He
yeah,
turned people into art, or sorry,
and
Ayashimon into art.
and of course that's not stopping here because he wants to make Big Sis into a fantastic, pretty piece. But I can only imagine the worst.
Uh huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a very creepy moment if you think about it.
Yeah, and the fact that as well, something else that caught my eye just rereading the chapter is the fact that he goes, "I am Dopo, second chairman of the Emma Syndicate," and then she's like, "Emma Syndicate, second chairman," and we have Moro like looking, kind of like, what does that actually mean?
I really couldn't tell you.
Yeah, because that has to mean something. Like she's bringing attention to that. Like, did she think like, oh, I took out the first chairman of the Emma Syndicate,
I
so there's
mean, that
probably
was my interpretation, but at the same time, I'm like, it's weird that he's calling himself the second chairman, right?
yeah.
But if he's like in charge, doesn't that make him like the first chairman or like the head or whatever that's called? But he's still calling himself the second chairman.
I'm guessing it could be a case of like I was saying, she took out the first chairman of the Emma Syndicate for like, okay, they probably aren't as organized right now as we believe. And oh crap, they've got the second chairman. What do I do? Or it might be the fact that there's more than one chairman.
Yeah, that could also be it. I mean, we're not too familiar with Yakuza between the two of us. I'll get
No.
more into the Yakuza series and then figure that out. But for now, I think the other thing I could think of is Dopo called himself the second chairman to elicit a reaction because I think he has a feeling, he has an idea of who this person is. Um,
That could be the case.
because we see like in the end of this next page that he like also does something to elicit a reaction to confirm his suspicions. So I feel like he's the way he's saying and doing things is specifically to confirm his suspicions. He's a very
Yeah.
interesting villain in that sense. He's brutal, but he's not an idiot.
Yeah, he's not an idiot, and oh my god, I can just imagine some of these moments actually playing out in the anime, and actually people being creeped out by him. But what would be even creepier if in the anime he had like such a like he had sort of like a Miriam from Hunter x Hunter style voice, like just this like calm, doesn't really get angry type voice.
Yep, which just makes him more scary.
Yeah, like that way. So we see on the next page where he's like, "Oh yeah, I was super picky about the interior of my car. What do you think? Didn't I deck it out nicely?" And then this is where he probably he. I'm guessing that's probably. I guess the thing was like, "Oh yeah." Um, he probably figured out like, oh yeah, Big Sis probably knows that I've kidnapped Hayashimi, so I'm gonna make it like, yeah, I know, and this is what I want to do just to get a reaction out of you.
Yep, I think so. And that
Yeah,
also means that he knows who she is,
yeah,
which is kind of like it's pretty scary. Anyway, then
yeah.
he starts to arrest the other Ayashimon and everyone else.
And tries to take Big Sis, but of course, uh,
Mara
uh,
decides, oh wait, I have like one job, and that is to be a bodyguard.
yeah, to be a bodyguard, and he decks Dora right in the face. But of course, Dora being I want
I
to
think
say
you meant Dopo. Dora is the protagonist from the last
Dopo, Dopo, being like, hey, I'm the main villain at this point. You can't be decking me right now. He just grabs Maru's hand and it's like, oh, he blocked. No, he dodged, but I felt like I nailed him. So
and that's what's really interesting because I think that gives a hint to what his abilities are because we do
Yeah.
see in the page before that's a direct hit and Maru felt it wasn't like one of those anime moments where it's like, oh, I thought I hit him, but I didn't. He
I feel
felt
like
the connection of the punch.
I feel like his ability might be like he has to take a bit of damage in order to do a lot of damage, if that makes sense. Because we
Oh, he's
see,
like one of those damage absorbers.
yeah, he's like one of those that, or not, yeah, or like a damage endurance person. Because we see that,
Like Yang from Ruby.
well, I've never seen Ruby, but
Oh, I bet you did. My bad.
I'll take your word for it. But yeah, he says like, I felt like I nailed him. And he's like, well, impressive. You feel human, but your strength totally isn't. So that's probably what he was doing. Like, okay, I need to figure out what kind of strength this guy is. So I'm gonna let him have one shot on me. But then after that, it's game over. Game over. And then because it kind of gives him the idea of like, and he said like, okay, the girl is the brains, you're the brawn. This is how it all fits together. And you actually see him damaging Maru's hand. So that's kind of what I'm feeling like. Okay, he takes the damage, and he's like, and that gives him like immediately the idea of what the characteristics of his opponent is.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I was wondering if it was like some kind of weird time reversal thing. That would be the scariest element if we're already fighting like a Dio tier villain right off the bat.
I don't see it being a time. I think the most simple explanation would be like he takes a hit, but then after that he gets an idea of what they're like, and he can counter them. So it's kind of
I like your explanation better.
It's kind of like for lack of a better word, the move counter for Pokemon.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, like how they'll take an attack, and then counter deals the damage double right back.
Yep, I think. Oh, that could be. I mean, we're about to see just because, like, at the end of the chapter,
yeah, we have him
the fight set up.
Yeah, so we have Dopo, so what looks like burning Maru's hand, but no, it's actually cold. And we have Dopo saying, the girl is all I need. This kid's amusing, but I'm not interested in any mere human. Now, come on, Dopo. He's not just any mere human. But this is where they're like, all right, I guess I'm going to have to kill you. And Maru's like, yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. And is that Dopo saying that seriously?
Like wait, which line?
Because it says
I'll
it
kill you right here.
No. All right, this is what I was hoping for. Seriously?
No, that was from Maru.
No, because it's a different part. It's a different speech bubble.
Yeah, but I mean, no, but look, a couple things. Like, look, first of all, just the way he's talking. I think that fits Maru's speech patterns more because he says "all right" for one thing, and the second thing is like if you go back to the last page where Maru's reacting to getting like burnt like by fire or whatever ice, I don't know, whatever icy fire thing, and he says "blah arg hot." That font matches closer to that last panel. And second, the next speech bubble under that where it said seriously, you see how there's like a little indent in there?
Yeah.
I think that that indent's supposed to say that's from a character off screen.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So I think the top one is Maru, and plus that makes more sense for him because he
no. I don't mean like Maru. No, I know that Maru's saying this is what I was hoping for. I was just
okay.
the word seriously. I was wondering, is that from Dopo?
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Actually, that's a good question because on one hand you could think that could be Dopo, and it's just like a funny comedy line, or it could be someone from the background. So yeah, actually that could be either or, but either way, it's funny.
But yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say on Ayashimon this week, unless you had something else you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, so for me, my thoughts for this chapter were, on one hand, it was very nice subversion that we're already like fighting this villain, and I want to say that I'm hoping that this is a fight that Maru finally like loses to, because we're dealing with a character who's like significantly stronger. Because I think like one of the problems, like I mean, what's going on in Mashal, for example, is that a lot of people, and this is true for me to an extent, but not to as high extent, that Mashal is able to defeat almost anybody like really easily. I mean, I think that's part of the joke and the gag. But in this series, since it's not trying to be primarily a gag, or well, it's half gag anyway, I think having a villain who Maru can't beat with just his pure strength as it is going to be good, so that he can take some time to train up and do typical shonen stuff, and it kind of shows his limitations. Additionally, it'll help set up like a future arc where, and even though it's going to be very similar to the Rescue Rukia arc in Bleach, where Maru can go up and save his crew members. And I'm thinking, what I said to Luke last time is that we could have him meet up with those other syndicates that Enma started a war with, and then he could team up with them to go fight Maru, or fight Dopo. And I think that would be pretty cool. It would be, because we were, of course, thinking as readers that Maru would go up to each of these guys and deck them in the face, and then eventually join them together again. But an interesting way for him to go about uniting people might just be him going to them for help rather than going to fight. I think we could have a really good character moment for Maru next time. But as a whole, I thought this chapter was a little bit weaker than previous ones, just because not too much has happened. But I think I liked it more than the last one, where it was just setting up the Enma Syndicate stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it could
also it's chapter 7, so it's like the last chapter of a volume. I think it's a good place to end a volume.
Yeah, and next week this week coming, we'll actually find out how well Ayashimon does in the rankings.
Yeah, that is true. We'll see the table of contents now that their chapter 7 is released, and I think it'll do well. I think this has been a very promising series, and hopefully Japan's been like.
I'm going to predict 5th place.
That high.
Max.
Nice.
At max.
Oh, max. Okay, I can see that at max.
Minimum, I'd say 9. Either way, I can see it being in the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exact numbers. I was thinking upper middle somewhere, but yeah. Because I don't see this like ranking above like the big veteran series.
Oh no, definitely not.
They're near like the end of their arcs and everything. The end of their series practically, like MHA and Dr. Stone.
Yeah.
And I think Jujutsu Kaisen is
and Mashal as well.
Yeah, so frankly, a lot of big series are ending, so they're going to be ranking fairly high.
Yeah,
although Mashal's been, I think, on the lower end recently. But.
Yeah, which means which means Ayashimon and Dora have actually come in at a good time.
Yeah, I think so. This is a good time for them to get picked up, and it's also a good time for other series to like really get attention. Because I remember when Dr. Stone was first coming out, I think it got very much overshadowed by other things like Demon Slayer and Promised Neverland, and even Haikyuu. There were like so many big series out that this series wasn't paid as much attention as it should have been. But then once those series like ended, I think Dr. Stone got much more attention. Yeah, and I feel like that'll be true for a lot of other series. Probably, I think the next big ones to get attention will be Sakamoto Days. And
I'd say maybe
Yozakura. I don't know. Yozakura, I think, it's got a fair amount of attention. I don't know if it'll get much more.
Yeah, I'd say like people will start paying attention more to like Sakamoto, Mission Yozakura, Witch Watch, and possibly Ayakashi Triangle, but that's a bit like iffy.
Yeah, just because of the source material. And even with Witch Watch, I wonder, just because it is still primarily a gag series, but I would like that.
Yeah, well, I'd say it's a combination of like gag and battle shonen.
Well, yeah, I guess, but it doesn't do as much battle shonen. Like, I mean, like Mashal is like, I think a perfect balance between gag and battle shonen, but like, Witch Watch is much more slice of life / gag with elements of battle mixed in, because it doesn't do too much with the combat.
Sky said Sakamoto is the only action series in the magazine I can see reaching Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen levels of popularity. Yeah, I've heard good things about Sakamoto. It's just like I tried to read it. I just couldn't get in. I just couldn't get into it.
And Sky said, I completely agree with you. I think Sakamoto Days is. I mean, in Japan, I feel like Elusive Samurai could easily blow up, and maybe Blue Box too. Those are doing really well in sales. But once it gets like its anime adaptation, I feel like Sakamoto Days is gonna be the only series that can actually have the potential to reach that level that Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man are going to be reaching.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I guess we could. I guess we'll move on to talking about My Hero Academia.
Yeah, you said you wanted to do that one next.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just make a quick note of the time. Pull up the chapter. Good news is my computer's internet's working again, but I'm gonna stay streaming on my phone just so it doesn't
fair
drop
enough.
again.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, let me get My Hero Academia.
All right. Okay, ready when you are.
Okay, so picking up from where the last chapter left off, with Hats.
Hatsune, you got it.
With mate Hatsune doing the pillow attack to Deku, as I like to call it, for lack of a better word, with her pillow babies, if you know what I mean. Yeah, and I love the fact that Danger Sense doesn't activate. Like, Deku could go through all these like crazy feelings and crazy abilities, but Mei Hatsumi's baby pillows are the ones that catch him off guard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's technically not an attack, but to be fair, I should have warned him of an explosion.
Yeah.
Oh man, I still love the ending of the last chapter where Deku was just so serious faced while this was all happening.
Yeah, Deku's got to be having deja vu right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ida did. Ida had deja vu.
Yeah, because they've both been in this situation before. But a sort of thing that I've noticed in this chapter, I don't know if you've noticed, but I saw a change in May's character is the fact that she now remembers Ida as well as Midoriya. I don't know if you've noticed that. Because if you remember when they first went to get equipment repaired by her after the sports festival and all of that, she didn't remember them. And they're like, "Oh, what are your names again?" And now she's like, "Oh yeah, hi Deku, hi Ida."
Huh? Actually, no, I didn't remember that. So that's a good thing to bring up.
Yeah. So we have basically May in her equipment lab, going looking at over Midoriya's equipment, saying like, "Oh, mid gauntlets, the latest in compression technology." And Deku's like, "Yeah, these were the prototypes for overseas, so I can't really stop them. Think you can fix them for me?" And May's like, "Oh, is this a rush job?" And Deku's like, in the most serious, like Batman style face. And I honestly want the voice actor for Deku to be like, "You bet it is."
Yeah, I mean, I love this gag they're doing with Deku right now. I feel like Horikoshi's very apparent how we perceive Deku as kind of more of a wussy protagonist compared to others. So he's just kind of doing this for fun. And Sky's reading your comment, Elusive Samurai hasn't really had any growth yet, but we'll see what happens with Volume 4. But it seems like a series that'll be big, but not a monster hit or anything. Yeah, the thing is, I think it was just selling so impressive compared to the other competitors in the magazine already, that the fact that I feel like this is, and it's gotten so many volume covers that eventually I think once it gets an anime, it'll survive long enough for that for sure. Yeah, that it'll get really big in Japan. I don't think it'll be that big internationally, so I agree that it won't be as big as like Chainsaw Man or Jujutsu Kaisen. But I think what I learned from Demon Slayer is that Japan really likes Japanese style stories. So there is like the off chance if it gets a really, really good adaptation, it could potentially blow up tremendously. Yeah. But yeah, I think Sakamoto Days is the best chance. I'm still in agreement with you on that.
Yeah, and I feel like with Elusive Samurai, I feel like it will be popular in Japan because it's like Phew, we get something about us for a change.
Yeah, which is kind of funny when you think about it.
Yeah. So anyway, back to anyway, back to My Hero. So we have Deku being like, "You bet it was. This was a rush job," and May's like, "Yeah, I can't help you. Sorry." And he's like, and Ida is like, "What?" Because you see his glasses, like question mark in that panel as well. So I assume that's meant to be Ida.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah. So
Because it has like his glasses.
yeah. So we have her explain like
But the
with
thing is,
that
we
level.
have glasses and we have freckles, so I think it's supposed to be both of them. You see that?
Oh yeah. It's meant to be. I think it is meant to be both of them. Yeah, because you see in the next panel we have You see in the next page her going, saying, "Yeah, I can't help you with both your equipment." With her
Yeah,
going,
and I do like that, like top panel of walking away at the speed of nope. Caleb has just a fun way to translate these chapters.
yeah,
And also, it kind of makes sense that you really can't help Deku with custom technology from a foreign nation.
yeah, that does make sense because. I feel like she's much more inclined to make her own equipment and being more like, yeah, I can tinker with this if you just give me time and money, but anything foreign related, yeah, not my specialty.
Yeah, plus it's like anything with anything custom made, especially like advanced tech that's probably like secret government stuff. She probably can't just recreate so easily. So
So she's saying like, yeah, they'll basically have to made from scratch with the compression mechanisms, and we have Ida asking about its armor, and she's like, yeah, without the specs, no can do.
yeah,
Yeah.
which again kind of makes sense. Although I thought she made the armor, I'm not too sure.
I think she might. Yeah, she probably made the armor, but I think she's lost the specs. So
Okay.
she's like, yeah, without them, no can do.
Okay.
And then we have two of her colleagues, two of her classmates saying saying that don't swear we can make what you need which gives an idea there that they've probably been overseas as well.
Maybe that's an interesting thought. And also, I'm pretty sure we've never seen these characters before, ever.
We haven't. Again, Horikoshi, too many characters.
I mean, in this case, I think the only reason they're there, as we'll see, is just to kind of show like this is what a regular support class student is versus what Hatsune is.
Yeah. Fair enough. But yeah, we have is it Forearms? Is that the name of the teacher?
Oh, the guy with the helmet?
Yeah.
It's Power Loader.
Power Loader. Yeah, I was trying to think. Is it what's his name? What's his name again? So where they have so he's enlisted Hatsumi to improve the defensives around what's around the perimeter, and she's busy concocting new mechanisms in case of a mass invasion. Which again, I really honestly feel that Hatsumi could have been in the hero course.
I mean, yes, you can talk a little more about that if you want.
Yeah, because she could have easily been like a female Iron Man. Like she has no battle prowess in terms of her quirk, but she could her quirk is zoom. So from what I remember, her quirk basically allows her to zoom in on places. So she could easily be like, oh, I found out where this weak point is in this robot in the entrance exam. I'm just gonna build my babies, blast that area. Great, I'm on the hero course right now.
Okay, so we were talking a little about that last time when we were going over the chapters quickly, and let's see, I think was it this guy? Okay, so there's one YouTuber that I was watching, and maybe it was Oceaniz. I'm sorry if I can't remember which author or which YouTuber did this video, but there was someone who basically like addressed like some common issues and complaints people have with the series, and one of the big ones being like, Deku would have been a better character coming in like quirkless or something like that. And then he addressed, well, okay, let's talk about how they could have potentially done that character if it was quirkless. And then one, of course, route that people thought of is he could take, like, like Luke was saying, the Iron Man route of using support equipment and using his brains in order to kind of compete against superpowers. And I was always under the impression that that would have been a much better route to take. But I think in that video, which if I don't know if I can find it, but in that video, they kind of brought up the fact that the story itself shows us that support equipment by itself is still like not on par with like top level quirks. And I think the example they used was like All Might mentioning that he tried support equipment for a little while, but they just couldn't keep up with his quirk. And so that's why he just wasn't a huge fan of it and just feels like it's more of just like a dependency people don't really need. And so what I was getting at there is I feel like even if Hatsune used equipment primarily for superpower to supplement stuff, it would have been an interesting and fun character and probably fun to follow, but I don't think she could have necessarily made it as far as other characters based on the level of technology in the My Hero world at this point. And the other thing is like
go ahead.
There were one other thing I want to say in the post-war arc, we also saw civilians using some of this advanced tech to fight off villains, but they weren't too successful with it either. So I guess that was the other proof that this equipment really doesn't do too much other than help out.
Okay, fair enough. But you said something as well about Deku as a character or as a protagonist.
Oh yeah, I mean, what I learned from watching that video was just that like I always thought that part of the reason Deku was kind of weak as a character is his motivations kind of suck, and the fact that his superpower is basically I got the number one power given to me and now I just got to refine it is kind of like a boring route. And that if he had a more interesting route, he would have been a much more interesting character because I really enjoyed early Deku's use of tactics and strategy. But I think that video proved to me, and this is what I was telling Luke before, that Deku is just fundamentally not super interesting as a character. And the route that they brought him on is probably the best route for the story to take, which is kind of unfortunate once I realized that watching that video.
Yeah.
Because Deku, he wants to be number one hero and kind of just for the recognition and the feelings he had when he was a kid. But his route to getting there is not super interesting because he just kind of gets random powers and then trains them up. Which even that just came more later in the story because he didn't even get Black Whip until like Class A versus Class B.
Yeah, he didn't.
Like his way of like finding ways around his super strength was honestly much more interesting because we spent so much time with it. Everything else he was just kind of like just coming up on the fly now.
Yeah.
My Hero doesn't have the best story structure, pacing, or main character, but it's still fun.
Yeah, it's still a fun series, and getting back into the chapter itself, we have May saying even a perfect A plus idea could drop to an A minus idea in a flash. When I think up a new baby, I've got to raise it right. That's some wisdom from me, and I'm like pretty much the phrase at the bottom, Hatsumi's words of wisdom. Yeah, pretty much Hatsumi in a nutshell. That right there.
Yep.
Yeah. So we have Deku saying, "I get it. No wonder you're paying no mind to the outside world. You're laser focused on your beloved inventions. You're pretty amazing. Yeah. You really." Yeah, she deserves more credit. She deserves a little bit more credit than she actually gets because even though, like you said, the technology might not be on the level of superpowers, but if it wasn't for her, they wouldn't have been able to do well in the sports festival.
Yep, also true.
Yeah. So we have a saying, "Don't be dense, Midoriya, as dense as highly density." Yeah, I don't get that either. Like, what's she trying to prove there? As dense as high density polyethylene? Like, what does she actually mean by that? I have no idea.
I don't know what polyethylene is. That sounds familiar from organic chemistry.
Let me
you can search that up. I mean, basically, what I think she was trying to say is that she is perfectly aware of what's going on. Like Deku's kind of being stupid if she thinks that she doesn't know that the world is literally collapsed.
Polyethylene is the most common plastic used today, so it's plastic.
Okay, I guess it's a high density plastic then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so I think she's just saying that of course she's aware of what's going on. Don't be
Yeah.
silly, Deku. It's kind of all she's saying, but she just said it in a weird way.
Yeah. So like she's aware of what's going on in the outside world, and even though she's not a fighter, she's using every trick in the book to protect as many people as possible because that's how the support cause does heroics. Which again, I would have. I actually honestly would like to see another spin-off of My Hero Academia, but instead of it being Midoriya, it's like focus on Hatsumi being the main character.
So yeah, what I was saying with this chapter is this moment itself was a really nice moment, but it just doesn't have, I think, the impact that it could have because we just didn't spend too much time with the support class. Like we saw them at the class tournament, but that was it. That was the only moment we got to see them, and even then, they were more of like a gag set than anything serious.
Like here's the thing. Instead of it being whatchamacallit, Momo always just using her create ability to create stuff. Just have it be the support group. Like how awesome would have been if like the support group were like that were like at the forest training camp to do their own type of training, and May's like, oh, I'll quickly invent some gas masks.
I mean, they could do some creative stuff with it, but I feel like from a storytelling perspective, it's like, I mean, it would just be just a bunch of like silly inventions that they're building. It's not like the series isn't like Dr. Stone where it's rooted enough in like real world science where we can take the inventions like kind of seriously and then be like, oh, okay, this is how you can make use of this invention. Instead, it's just going to be a bunch of like random sci-fi level inventions like every time coming out of nowhere. They can maybe make like a one-off for that, but they probably couldn't make a whole spin-off to like really invest us without like a major like villain or something they have to confront. So I mean, it's theoretically possible.
Okay,
but I feel like they would have to like invent a new villain for the support group to somehow face without heroes around, and it would be kind of a little contrived. And Carl saying, yeah, you did miss our Ayakashi triangle episode, but yes, it was very bizarre.
Yeah, and also very confusing about why it was censored.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, going back to my hero itself, so we have basically Hatsumi creating new gloves for Deku that punch him in the face, and her saying, "My babies might not be the latest and greatest, but please put them to work." And we see like it's so powerful what she's created that it scrunches up their faces that don't get unscrunched for quite some time.
Yep. And it's also just funny because, you know, she did eventually help them out, even while she was doing all these other things. So, and as we see on that page, her classmates were just about to take their measurements. So she was just doing this based on pre-established measurements she already had. And just like made them like with single-handedly while she was doing other stuff. So that was just to say, it's like, oh man, she's like super OP at building stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And she says, like, please, and her final appearance in this chapter of like, please give your hero course pals a message. Let's win this. As we see everyone turning, we see everyone going like, "Oh hey, they're back! It didn't take you guys long." And we have Sarah saying, "Faces aren't supposed to stick that way," and yet for the cellophane hero to say that, yeah, that's pretty much like, what the hell?
Yep.
Yeah. Before we have Mount Lady basically giving the pep talk of all pep talks of like, I've heard about what Class A have been through, but sadly we can't afford to waste a single day at this point. Our best case scenario is still finding and mopping up the Liberation Front and the League of Villains as soon as possible. That would solve this whole mess, and we're not abandoning the original plan altogether. And standing around all days of confused is just playing into the enemy's hands.
Yeah, and I like how Mount Lady is like now just playing a lot more of a serious role. It kind of shows like a little of her own. She had her kind of own character growth into the side of the story, which is kind of nice. I do like that touch.
Yeah, I did like that. I like that as well. And they're all discussing about like, oh, what's going to happen Ayama. Is he going to come back? Are they actually going to is he actually going to take the hand that they offered him? I feel like they will, but I still feel like Todoroki needs to be like there saying like, look, I've been through a similar situation with this. It's your quirk, Ayama. Now it's not all for ones anymore.
Yeah, and I think that actually is a good parallel. I didn't even think of it when I was reading it. It's a good parallel.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, because Todoroki says, I think it'll be fine because he has always had his sights set on the man he wants to be. He wants to be more than any of us. And oh my god, I've just realized what he's actually doing here. So he's actually saying that Ayama wants to be more like Midoriya.
Oh, I mean,
if you see him, he sees walking. He says, "I think it'll be fine because he puts his hand on Midoriya's shoulder as he's saying he's always had his eyes set on the man he wants to be more than any of us."
That's an interesting interpretation. I just read that one as like Ayama. He always was talking about how he wants to be the sparkling center of attention and everything. So like more so than even the other classmates. Well, I guess maybe other than like Bakugo and Deku and stuff who want to be the number one hero. Like he always had a vision for who he wanted to be. But that's a good thought.
Yeah, because I feel like as well, he's seen Deku get more confident in himself throughout the series. So he's like, "God, why can't I be as confident as Deku? What am I doing wrong?"
Yeah, that's a good thought. And then we see Class 1A like part of the search squad. So they're just kind of like searching for civilians and getting them to safety. It's kind of what's going on.
And we are well, it's not Class 1A, it's like the graduates, so like the former Big Three, because I think they've graduated now, haven't they?
I guess theoretically they would have, but I mean, I don't know how the school course has been going with all this happening, but
because
theoretically
they said that they finished their first year before the war started, so I guess theoretically they're not in school anymore.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah. So they're saying they'll get the civilians over to Shinetsu. We'll get you on over to Shinetsu High. So yeah, we're gonna see the wind guy again at this point.
Yeah, and like this page, we're also seeing Nejire. I'll make a note of that, and Sun Eater as well. I feel, in fact, so I feel like this last arc will be kind of showing off like a lot of these characters that we've been seeing, and just kind of like to be like, okay, where are they now, kind of things, which is fine, but also it's kind of sad that with like Nejire, for example, like I saw a lot of comments about her like new haircut and style, and apparently I didn't realize this. I guess Dabi burnt her hair, and that's why she has a shorter haircut now.
Oh wow!
Nice attention to detail there, I guess.
Nice attention to detail. And
but
also,
as a character, oh, sorry, guys.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay, what I was gonna say is like this is probably the only other thing we're gonna see her do in the story, and she really, other than I guess some of the fights she had in the war arc, she really wasn't much of a character, to be honest. And I guess this is probably also the last we're going to maybe see of Sun Eater as well, because they just get acknowledged for existing and doing stuff. But yeah, I think, and like the reason I'm bringing that up because Luke mentioned we're going to see those other Shiketsu High kids, and they were there for like 1-2 arcs, and most of them don't matter, and we're probably just going to see another chapter of them existing. But I think you had a theory about that, right?
Yeah, I can't remember the theory off the top of my head. I'll see if it comes back to me in a moment. I'll see if it comes back to me. But yeah, I just wanted to read Carl's comment. So
oh yeah, I was going to bring that up at the end, but go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, we can bring it up at the end then. We'll just quickly round out the chapter. So we have them saying like fewer people means much less intel. We're in a tight spot, and you know what this means. Gone are the days of sneak attacks and raids at each other. Now it's the opposite. Both sides pulling all the stops out and gearing up for a true blue all-out war on every front. So this will probably be the true war arc of My Hero Academia.
Yeah,
as we have
whatever we want to call it. I don't even know what the names are anymore.
as we have uh, All Might saying, so about our plan B, let's review the key info about the other battle that could decide it all. So I'm guessing the other battle is like it's gonna be it's probably gonna be like Deku versus everyone versus all for one, because I feel like Deku still cannot defeat all for one by himself.
No, I don't think so either at this stage.
And I was really hoping at some point that it would be because it's pretty much acknowledged like they're taking on the burden of Midoriya's responsibility. I feel like at some point it's going to be like Midoriya theoretically is the number one hero, because that's not what the whole story is building up to, being how he becomes the number one hero. But I don't feel he's like gonna officially take that title, because I feel like they've all become like the number one hero, like they're all working together to stop the most evil threat that's ever existed.
That would be an interesting subversion for the story. I don't know if I see it going that way, but it's an interesting thought.
Because it just seems like that's what they've been going at, like because Midoriya throughout is like I'm going rogue arc. He went rogue because I feel like he had to, because it was like more like he had to burden everything on his shoulders, and they've all said like, no, we're gonna share your pain, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, the only reason I find that a little strange is because I felt like the tournament arc where Monoma was leading Class 1B around, I felt like that arc was almost trying to tell us that the individualism of Class 1A's competitiveness is what gave them the edge over Class 1B in the tournament. So I honestly thought that was telling us the theme of My Hero is definitely about competing to become number one. So it would be kind of, I don't know, a little strange if they went the route of everyone being number one at the end, but we'll see.
Well, I just don't feel like, I feel like the number one hero is going to be like, that's just going to be abolished by the end of the story.
I would honestly love it if it went that direction. I just feel like that's not what's from things that happened earlier in the story where it would go, but it would be a nice development for society to realize that the concept of the number one hero is more problematic than anything. And I would actually applaud that kind of ending if it happened. But anyway, what I want to say here is that I'm not sure if that other battle is what All Might is talking about. I feel like that other battle is like some other fight we're not aware of that's happening that is also crucial to the coming plot line.
Maybe we'll see.
But I'm not sure who that could be, because we know where most of the pro heroes are and most of the classmates are. Unless Class 1B is doing something.
I'm guessing the other battle to decide it all might be Endeavor and Todoroki versus Darby.
That could be it, because that is another big fight.
Yeah. Anyway, before we move on, we'll address Carl's comments, because he's put a lot here. He's put like, I think a Pie Jams level comment.
Yeah, so, I wasn't trying to ignore you, man. I just wanted to bring this up at the end.
Yeah, My Hero manga finally answered the question of who the traitor is, but I haven't heard you guys. Yeah, it's because I don't read vigilantes.
Yeah, I do though, so I would be glad to discuss that now that we finished this chapter. But let's read your other comments as well. The timing of it without a Fire Force, reading the final two chapters, surprising as well. Yeah, there's a lot of series that are just ending around now. I mean, the same thing happened in 2020. So many series were just like coming to an end.
Yeah. And like 2016 as well, there was like a lot of series that came to an end, like Bleach, Toriko, and Kochikame, the manga that went for 40 years.
Yeah, so I guess there's just certain years that a lot of manga series just come to an end. 2022 is another one. And then I do feel bad for Ioma too, but you should have to admit the build-up towards this should have been a little bit better. I think, yeah, me and Luke were definitely talking about that in the previous chapter. Like it's really like if we had more of him, that would be good. But I agree with Skyzad that you can say that for most of the characters in this series. Honestly, it's like the cast of My Hero is very poorly like done. It really should have been just shrunk down to begin with.
And then his final comment: at this point, the only way that would happen is for All Might to actually die, and then everyone truly comes together to stop Overwatch. Yeah, I feel like that might be the case. That might actually be where it actually goes, because All Might at this point, like All Might and Gran Torino, I feel like all the characters that are most likely to die.
Yeah, because mentor characters are always at high risk of it.
Yeah.
The weird
I
thing is,
was
though, with Gran Torino, he barely managed to make it out of one thing, so it'd be kind of weird to kill him off in another. And All Might had, I mean, he did have some red flags, so I can see that for sure.
I was gonna say Aisawa, but I don't really want them to kill off like all three of Deku's mentors.
Yeah, I would be sad. I would actually be really upset if Aizawa died. He's
Oh,
my
no.
favorite character.
Yeah. Oh, he's my favorite character as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
would you consider Endeavor a mentor to Deku, or is he more like a mentor to Todoroki?
He was for an arc, so I can see that. If you're saying, do I think he could die in the Dobby fight because of the mentor role? Yeah, absolutely. I could see him potentially passing away from that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
I can talk about vigilantes then.
Yeah, you talk about vigilantes quickly. Let me see if let me just bring it up quickly. Right at the top, right there.
Yep, it recently came out.
There you go.
So for vigilantes, so for those who don't know, My Hero Academia Vigilantes is kind of a spin-off of My Hero.
And while you're while you're talking about it, I'm just gonna go and take a leak at the toilet.
Yep, go for it, man. I can handle it for a bit. Yeah, so Vigilantes is like a side story in My Hero Academia. But the thing is, events of the story happen way before the events of My Hero Academia, because we see a lot of like our characters in younger states. Like there was one chapter where we just saw Miriko, who's right now top hero, as a student. And we see Ida's brother like interacting with our main character, Koichi. So a lot of backstory and things are established in there. And there's been a lot of overlap with Vigilantes and My Hero as well, where we see a lot of the Aizawa's and President Mike's backstory and how it connected to their passing of their friend. Like we saw all that in Vigilantes. And eventually those things came to fruition within the main story. So one big thing that Vigilantes fans have been looking forward to is how or if the main character Koichi of the Vigilante series will ever come out into the main series. Because it feels like the fact that this Vigilantes is right now in its final fight, which frankly, with it being like a series that doesn't release weekly, but rather on like I think a bi-weekly basis or monthly basis, one or the other, it's taking that fight very, very long. It's been taking a while, so I hope it ends pretty soon. But the fight itself has been epic. I loved, while Vigilantes had its very slow arcs that I think kind of drag it down, I think the fact that Koichi shows like the kind of protagonist I almost wish Deku was, because he had like a very weak quirk, which he developed to becoming incredibly powerful based on his versatility and finding his own niche of how he can go about using it. And also as a vigilante, he isn't we aren't doing all the like random school activities and stuff, which I guess was helping the My Hero sales. Instead, we're spending most of it going into the underworld of the My Hero world, which is much more interesting than doing school events. But anyway, yes, I think Vigilantes is doing really awesome, and the end is upon us. I'm hoping it'll end soon. I do think that the recent chapter was a little weird because we basically confirmed that ghosts exist in My Hero. So there's like a basically confirmed afterlife. I was watching a video from a YouTuber I watch who was talking about that. But yeah, I'm loving the fight. I love Koichi's development, and I'm really looking forward to see how it ends. And I hope Koichi does show up in the main story, because if he can show up, I think he'll be a great asset, because he's already this powerful years before like this conflict had occurred. So by this point in the story, he would be very good in helping deal with a lot of these endgame bosses. And it'd be very rewarding for us Vigilantes fans to see him just come in and start doing things on his own, because he was treated like as a vigilante, as like a borderline criminal in like the story, just because he's doing things you can't do without a hero license or whatever. But now he hopefully will get some recognition by the end. I don't know. There's a big theory about will he get to live a free life? Will he be on the run? Like there's a lot of predictions about where the vigilante story could end, and I'm hoping it ends like with him saying he'll come about if like the world really needs him, but he's gonna take a bit of a breather with Pop. And if it ends with that, I'm hoping that the moment he comes back is around now and he gets contacted to help with this final fight. And let me just read your comment. The past few chapters, Vigilante, nothing short of amazing. It's really coming full circle. Koichi's character development is pretty much how Deku developed One for All, but without training by his teachers and definitely more self-taught. Rip to legend. Yep, indeed. Yep, rip to Knuckle Duster. Yeah. I think he had like a good end to his character, or he's having a good end to his character right now. It's a very sweet moment.
Yeah, I'm back now. So he's kind of on death's door, basically.
Oh yeah, he's like absolutely on death's door. Like my Vigilantes has like it has way more satisfying character deaths. Like Midnight got killed off screen in the main series, but Knuckle Duster is like on death's door, and actually another character is also like on death's door. But I'm hoping she doesn't die. I'm hoping she comes back. She's actually in the hospital. But yeah, Knuckle Duster's definitely gonna die. He's like the other mentor character who's definitely dead. But he had like a really good character, really good backstory. Now, Vigilantes as a whole, I think, in writing terms, is like a lot better than My Hero in many ways. But I feel like My Hero had much higher heights, I would say. And then Koichi's character development is similar. So Deku developed all for one. I think to some extent you're right, Carl, but I also disagree to some extent where I feel like I know what you're saying where Deku like used like his strength in different and creative ways. And I would say in the beginning of the story, that's very true. Those two have a different comparison, but I think the big difference is Koichi's ability to begin with, and for Luke, just for context, his ability is basically to stick to stuff and slide around.
I know about his ability.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's about as much of Vigilantes as I know.
That's fine. Okay, then. So his power, like he developed, but I think with One for All, it has like multiple quirks to it as well. So I think that gives Deku like an infinitely more advantageous position. Plus, he had like top level training, like you said, and additionally, like the quirk was already belonging to the number one hero, so we already know it's OP even before the multiple quirks activate. I think in comparison, Koichi's ability is more interesting because it was a quirk that barely did anything, but then he managed to train it into becoming something incredibly powerful, which is a lot more interesting than I think the route Deku took. Seeing how the underworld got developed in Vigilante, I wonder if they'll expand the premise in the World Heroes movie. I'm a little unfamiliar with the My Hero movies, so I really can't say much.
I have not seen World Heroes Mission. Apparently, it's regarded as like the least for the I don't want to say worse, the least interesting of the hero movies.
Yeah, but I mean, I think My Hero on the Underworld is somewhat interesting, and even All for One touched on it a bit that he has connections all over the world to it. But My Hero has never been a story that really expanded upon its more interesting elements. Well, it has at times, but then it'll spend time doing some of the less interesting things.
Yeah. So yeah, that was My Hero, and I feel like we can move on to talk about Black Clover, considering I know Carl and Sky Sword both read it, so
yeah, let's do it.
We can move on to talking about Black Clover.
Here it is. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so just gonna say right off the bat, before we get into it, like the size comparison between Asta and Lucifero.
Yeah, I mean Asta's already pretty short. That's been very well established in the story. But even then,
I feel like Lucifero could use, like I said when we were initially talking about them, it could use Asta's sword as like a toothpick.
Yep. And that's like not even an exaggeration, as we'll see in later parts of the chapters.
Yeah. So,
but I think as my whole impression of this chapter was, it was very good, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I did as well. So we have Leech.
It's okay. I think Blazing Boy asleep, so we can't get in trouble.
Yeah. We have Asta's foster brother, Devil.
Yeah, Liebe.
Liebe. Sorry everyone. I am awful for forgetting how to say Black Clover character names.
Yeah, we'll never get these right, honestly.
No. So Libe remembers. Oh yeah, this guy is the one that killed my foster mother, Asta's mother, and Lucifer is like, oh, why would I know you since you don't have a shred of magic? And
I saw
you
some
are...
fun memes about this moment where it was just like Scarlet Witch confronting Thanos. It's like, I don't know who you are.
You will. Yeah, and we see the ground just being split open just from, again, I feel like just the presence of Lucifer is just doing that.
Could be, or it could be gravity magic because he was granting that to.
Well, again, that's just the presence of him.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I was thinking gravity magic, but that could be it as well.
Yeah. So the Asta and Libe are feeling the full weight of the sheer force of it, and we have them going into their Devil Union form, which, as we know, they can only last for about 4 minutes. So, of course, every single great power in anime and manga, it has a time limit.
Yeah, Bleach did the same thing with their hollow powers. Set a time limit on it.
And then we have this unknown devil saying, wow, so there's somebody who can move inside Lucifer's power, and he has no magic to begin with, and he's an odd one. Before us saying like, oh, we'll take him down in 4 minutes, before we have Lucifer doing the Eisen thing.
Yeah, and I also made a meme about this moment because when we first see this and Lucifer holding the sword, it's just like an epic Eisen moment. But then he literally takes his index finger, touches the sword, and starts bleeding and gets really ticked off at Asta. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're the one who touched the sword on the edge. Who does that? Who does that to begin with?
Yeah. But the fact that he could only give Lucifer a paper cut means, like, based on what we see in the next at the end of the chapter, like, oh no, this is not going to go well.
Yeah, but it also proves that Asta can hurt him. So there's that.
Yeah, but however minor, it can still hurt him, but it's still minor, and it's like this unknown devil said, like, we need to get his name quickly, so that we're not just calling him the unknown devil, because it sounds like something from Chainsaw Man when I say that.
That is true. Yeah, we don't know this dude's name. I don't even know what he's here for other than commentary, to be honest.
Maybe it's just like Lucifer's hype man.
I guess at this point that's all he kind of is.
Yeah. So he says Lucifer's magic is beyond amazing, and so are his physical skills, even if he is not complete. And I love that they've brought that in, that even if he's not complete, an ant can't beat an elephant, no matter how strong or weird it is, because that just proves like Lucifer is on a completely whole different level from anyone else in the series.
Yeah, which is to be expected. And then we also see that Rouge has like helped the Black Bulls like with her ability, so they're still alive for now.
But only just, but of course, we see we just keep getting the death flag. Like, Tabara's just milking the fact, like, we expect Yami to die here.
He really, really is.
And he's like, oh, I'm gonna milk it so much, like, is Yami gonna die? Is he not? You're just gonna have to keep reading.
Yep.
And then we see Asta. Was it Asta? Yeah, Asta being tossed around like a rag doll. And is it Vanessa doing this monologue here?
Yeah, this is all Vanessa right now.
Yeah. So we have Vanessa saying, all he did was get close, and it feels like we're being crushed. If he pays even a little attention to us, we're finished. So yeah, it pretty much like Eisen as like a devil, because as soon as you get close to me, like, you just fall to your knees. So yeah, if Eisen was a character in Black Clover, it'd be Lucifero.
Yeah, effectively, like the several thousand-year-old plans and everything. I mean, the only big difference, of course, between Lucifer and Eisen is because Eisen was set up as like a fun twist traitor in the Soul Society arc, and Lucifer is just straight up Satan in Black Clover world.
Yeah. So just by existing, he forces all creatures to its knees, which okay, that that which that's going to be throwing a wrench in the matter, as we'll soon see. But again, that might only be temporary. He says she says people spells and even fate. So this is the king of the devils. And then we have Asa saying, all he did was punch me, but man, that was rough. My eyes won't focus. So the fact just one punch made Asa disoriented to the point that he's blind, like just gives again a taste of how powerful Lucifer really is.
Yep. That really is, honestly, if anything, it's impressive as Devil Union's holding on to that. Yeah. And Sky, to address your comment, if Yami dies but Gaja doesn't, it's a whole heap of bull. I can see what you mean, because I remember when Gaja died, like Gaja felt like a good character to kill off, because it's a character we were invested in. I liked him a lot, but he wasn't like super important to the story afterwards, so it would make sense. So then undoing his death felt kind of like, why? But at the same time, I think Yami's death would have even more impact and have at least more story purpose, potentially, because Luke and I were discussing previously that potentially he could be like a host for Lucifer or something, because of his darkness magic and such. And similar things are actually happening in another manga, Kaiju number 8. So I think it's like an interesting idea where like the mentor character becomes the possessed by a greater evil. And I also, I will agree that they really should have killed off Gaja. Like, him coming back was stupid. They didn't need to do that.
And so to wrap out the chapter, again, a short but sweet chapter this week. We have all the other captains appearing, and the fact that these guys are like standing despite Lucifer's presence just shows the feats of their powers as well.
Yeah, it really does. And this reminds me of something. I forgot what I said last time I was talking to you, with all the captains coming out.
Yeah, but I feel like that they're all gonna get like curve stomped.
Yeah, I feel like this is like the Kage moment, like with Midara, like where we see like the strongest characters going up against like a top tier villain. And I mean, if it's anything like Midara, they will get stomped out, and it'll be fun to watch. But then Sky said, but Mimosa's healing is actually hacks. I refuse to believe no one can. Okay, that is true. But also Mimosa's out for the count right now. So I guess there's that too. And you're right, Mimosa is like really OP. But the weird thing is, I'm not mad at Mimosa because I love Mimosa a lot. She is great. And so I'm okay with her.
And also Sky Syed, thank God you're not here when Blazing / Footboil isn't here, because saying anything bad about Black Clover, he will defend it to the end of time.
But the thing is, I don't think Sky's saying it's as well. I mean, maybe he's kind of implying it's not the greatest thing, but I think saying that Mimosa's ability is like so overpowered, it can practically bring back near dead maybe actually dead people. It just proves that there's like ways in the Black Clover universe for magic to just undo all the bad stuff.
Yeah, but again, when people were saying that about Mimosa's healing, they were like, they were going like, oh, it's hacks, and he went and I remember him absolutely going like, no, this makes perfect sense. Here's why. And he did an essay. He did like an essay on it, on why it makes sense.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing. One, I feel like it's enough of a stretch of the imagination that it does make sense. But I think the execution of that moment was like a little awkward with the wording, at least how the translations came off, where it's like magic can bend reality to however we want. I'm like, that is basically the equivalent of saying we can do whatever we want because we live in magic land. And two, it's just felt like Mimosa also kind of came out of nowhere, where she is kind of like the Aerie of Black Clover, where like Aerie, I feel like her power is way more hacks because you can just rewind time effectively for people. And people have always thought of like crazy things that can happen in My Hero, but then people are like, oh yeah, but Aerie can just kind of undo that if she was around. So there's a problem when you bring that kind of level of power to a series, especially if it's like a character. I mean, in Aerie's case, she's a child, so they kind of limits that. But Mimosa, there's like not much that really limits her because she's a royal with a lot of magic.
Yeah.
I like Black Clover. The last 2-3 chapters have been good, but it's been a rarity in this arc, and I'm not afraid to say it. Yeah, that's fair. I think as a whole, this has been a solid arc. I do think that the Spade arc, though, especially in comparison to some of its counterparts, was a little weaker than some of the top series, just because there were a lot of like lower points. Like one was that, like defying the death thing. The other thing I think was some of the fights I wasn't too invested in, and then other fights were just kind of over. Like with Mora's fight, it was just like non-existent. So
Yeah.
I think this arc had its ups and downs. Overall, it's a good arc, especially like what they did with Yuno. But I'm more than anything, I'm curious about where it'll go from here.
Yeah, I'm more curious.
Because if we're right, and Lucifero just curb stomps the captains, like what happens? Like, does he possess Yami? Does he go back to the underworld? And I will say that the possibility of him losing is still there. Like I was telling Luke last time, he is at not full power right now. So they could just say that the captains barely managed to win.
Well,
And
I'd just like to point out here, you said the Spade Kingdom arc just before. Well,
Yep.
this is technically still the Spade Kingdom arc.
oh yeah, I'm still talking about this as the arc's going.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because like I mean like I was saying, there was like that whole thread that people were recommending like the best like stuff from 2021. And with Black Clover, I will admit, like maybe I think one of the fair nominations was like Dante versus Magna being like a top tier fight was good just because of the emotions and the build up to it. But then, or even versus I forgot what was his name. I forgot his name. I'm sorry. I'm really
It's
glad
fine.
Boys in here. But yeah, like Yuno's fight and his monologue were also really good. I think he had like some of the best stuff last year for Black Clover. But I think as a whole, the Spade Kingdom arc is not like as up to tier as like Fire Force's current arc or what Dr. Stone was doing in South America.
Oh yeah, I'd
and
say
arguably even Jujutsu Kaisen's current arc, which I know you're not reading, but I think they're all kind of still are overall better, even though Black Clover has been as a whole like strong.
yeah, I'd even argue that the current arc in Mission Yatsukura is doing things a lot better than some of the stuff in Black Clover in the Spade
I don't know
Kingdom
if I
arc.
would go that far, but
Some of the stuff, not all of it, but some of the stuff. As we'll get into it, like we won't get into it this chapter, but just for the fact that we're finding out more history of the Osakura family.
Okay, yeah. I guess I was more talking in the context of last year.
Oh, okay. More. Oh, right. Last year. Yeah. Oh, okay. Fair enough. But yeah, I would agree with you about like the whole. I'd argue Dr. Stone had a much stronger year than Black Clover.
Yeah, even though Dr. Stone also had its issues last year, I think it still like was one of the best manga of the year. I was gonna give it like actually in that thread, I was gonna give it to Attack on Titan because it's like my all-time favorite, but it did end fairly early in the year, so I thought, well, Dr. Stone and more happening. I really debated that one.
And to anyone who who disagrees, I've just got to say 2 words: Suika's development. That's all you need to know.
Oh yeah, that was a whole thing. And then personally, I'd say the Spade arc is the worst arc in the series, but that's discussion another day. Yeah, actually, that does sound like a discussion for another day. Because I don't know if I would agree with that one. I feel like Witch's Forest is largely considered one of the worst arcs, and I kind of in agreement.
Well,
it's
actually,
one of the worst.
Oh, that would be a good stream. Which arc out of the series that we read, which arcs do we consider the worst?
I mean, that'd be kind of mean. I would almost. If you want to do just worst, I thought you were just going to say we were going to rank Black Clover arcs. But
no. Like the one, I wouldn't say worst. Like
so,
just
like the worst of like all the ongoing series, or just like of like a previous year. Like, what do you?
I'd say of all the ongoing series. So like, but I wouldn't say the worst. I'd say like the one that. Our least favorite. There we go. Our least favorite arcs from each of the mangas.
Oh, okay. We could do that. I mean, yeah, we could definitely do that. And then Xenon. Oh yeah, Xenon. Thank you. I forgot the name. And I thought Xenon from the Triad was like the most interesting character, just because Vanica was just like so basic a character. She was just there more for fan service and the craziness that I think she was a little too much for me. And then Dante. I know Dante gets a lot of flack for losing so many fights, but I think at the same time, I at least think he did what he was supposed to do very well. Like help set up these really emotional fights that we got super invested in. While Vanika's fight, I think some people were invested in. I wasn't as much. And then Xenon's fight I actually thought was pretty good because what it did for Yuno's character. And then
Okay.
Yozakura has been clear of Black Clover for at least a year now. Well,
What do you mean by
it sounds like you.
What, I honestly curious. What does that actually mean?
I think like he just said he finds the Spade arc like one of the worst arcs in the series. So I feel like if he's really liking Yozakura and this is the weakest arc for him for Black Clover, he probably feels like Yozakura is just acing things a lot more. I think Yozakura found its like A game last year. I think it went from being like a pretty good, fun series to being one of the best in the manga last year. But I think even then, just like the other series, because they're on their end game, other than of course Black Clover, which has just been going on, they've just been kicking it up to like 11. Dr. Stone's like near its end game, Jujutsu Kaisen. So these guys have really been like hitting all the big notes.
Yeah. Xenon was definitely the most interesting, but unfortunately his backstory confirms he has an 80 IQ.
Okay, but an 80 IQ is still within average. It's like the lower end of average, to be honest. But I mean, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, they kind of had to do a little bit of contrivance to get that story to work. Yeah, but I know what you mean. You could say that along about the siblings. The siblings are very, very stupid. So many ways. So, like the Black Clover villains are like not super great. I think in many ways Lucifero is almost more interesting because at least he's like a force to be reckoned with. Although Patchy was Patchy was also actually kind of stupid. Yeah, he was also kind of stupid.
But yeah, I feel like that's everything we can talk about Black Clover for now. That's average. Damn, I must be a genius then.
Oh yeah, like 100 is like average. Like 100 is like defined as the mean, but like there's like a standard deviation of 20, like from 80 to 120. That's about where like 60% of the population is. About so yeah, and if you're like a bit above 120, you're like very smart. I think above 150 is like genius level or 180. It's either 150 or 180. I forgot the exact standard deviation. It's been a couple years since I looked into it.
Oh, okay, all right. But yeah, so we're on 2 hours 40 at the moment. Wow, we've been going for quite some time, and we still got
several series to go.
Do you wanna just skip Blue Box and just not bother with it this week?
I'd be fine with it. I mean, I mostly just caught up to Blue Box for us to talk about.
All right, but I feel like if we have to cut one series out just for time consistency, I feel like Blue Box would be the one.
Yeah, I'm fine with that because I know it's like much later where you are.
Yeah. So I guess we can talk about Witch Watch and then move on to Mission Yosakura and then Dr. Stone to wrap it up.
Sure, sounds good. Although since it's taking so much time, we should really consider it's like when we had Undead Unluck.
Yeah,
how we want to do this.
I feel like when we do Undead Unluck, we could like if Blue Box isn't doing it for us, we could just like slot it into Blue Box's place.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Honestly, I'd much rather talk about Undead Unluck than Blue Box.
Okay, we could do that. We could do that. But yeah, so let me get up the chapter. So Witch Watch. So Sky said, you said you're not cold with Witch Watch.
Do you want to do Yozakura then instead? Or?
We could do Yozakura if he wants to.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought you were just going order of like what our audience asked for.
All right, so Sky Sayed, which one do you want to do? Which one do you want us to do? Do you want us to do Mission Yozakura, or do you mind us talking about Witch Watch?
Yeah, because I mean, I guess there's technically spoilers if you want to read this one. Okay, we'll give him a second for that. So we have like 3 more series to talk about then?
Yeah.
Okay, I think Yozakura will be a pretty quick one. I mean, I know it was your chapter of the week, so you might have more to say, but I don't have too much more. You can do whatever it's your stream, man.
Okay, we'll do Witch Watch then.
Great, cool. Witch Watch. So we start off with talking to the Exorcist dad that we met last time. And going back to like our previous like talks with the chapter, I honestly thought that this family was going to be like some kind of traitor / evil kind of thing going on, because the warlock that we fought last time was conveniently there when they were there, and that just seemed like such a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
That when they called them to visit and the warlocks was there, that I thought, okay, this had to be a setup. But this chapter like really just deconfirms all that, unfortunately.
And it turns out that they are not just vampires but bat familiars.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And yeah,
So-
I also wish Witchwatch had physical forms. What can you do?
Yeah. So Sky said, yeah, we have bat vampire femboy at the moment. Yeah. So we have so they explained that the present day vampires do not drink blood, but rather they absorb a person's energy through skin. And if they happen to have magic, they take the magical energy, and if they don't, they absorb their vitality. For most of them, blood runs through their soul-consuming powers and banishes lesser evils. At most, vampires as a clan are doomed to fade away. If becoming human is our fate, we might as well build a place in human society now, and that's why they've hidden their true nature and quietly settled in this like creepy castle that's so cliched. The lightning strikes.
Yep.
Yeah. But then the son was born with greater power than they'd seen in generations, and he's so powerful that he can destroy warlocks. And the warlocks basically saying like, "Oh, this is all I can tell you. A man I'd never met before came up to me and offered a deal, and I took it, and that's all that is." Okay, this might actually be a case of where this arc actually doesn't end in this chapter because of the fact that he's just said that.
Wait, what?
Because you have the warlock saying, "A man I'd never met before came up to me and offered me a deal. I took it. That's all." So that because you were a bit disappointed that this arc was kind of wrapping up quickly, but I think that this is actually setting up for the next part of the arc.
But the thing is, I think the last warlock we met also met up with some stranger that gave them a deal. So it's just that same villain again. I think probably. And I mean, might as well share my theory here.
Go ahead.
So one chapter we got actually showed that Nico's parents got like a divorce, and I think Nico largely blames herself because she accidentally destroyed their house while her magic was, maturing. And
also, before you say your theory, I just want to say this. I would have wanted to catch up to Witchwatch physically, but unfortunately, Fizz says no. Yeah, that's fair. But again, I'd really recommend getting the Fizz subscription. But if that's not for you, then that's not for you.
Yep. Anyway, continuing to read. What I was saying, theory. So we know that like Nico's parents got divorced. She blames herself, and I remember at the time I found it a little strange that Nico's dad was like going to leave at that moment. Was he like that frustrated, like with her daughter being that powerful? It felt like a weird offhand moment. But then I thought to myself, what if he's going to be like a major villain of this arc, where he's like the one who's getting all these people to try to capture her daughter?
Oh, that could be it. That could be interesting, or maybe it's something connected to Nemu's family as well. Like Nemu and Nico's family, they have to be connected in some way.
At the very least, Nemu's family has to play some part in the story because Nemu's brought up her mom's elite witch status before, so they have to be there. We have to get into witch society, and I feel like the fact that if the vampire family didn't betray them, which I guess what this chapter is implying, someone else who knew where they were going told the warlocks where to go, which means whoever the villain is either has a connection to A, Nico's mom, which would make sense if it was her dad, B, with Nemu because Nemu tagged along with them. So then it could be Nemu's family involvement, or C, someone else who's somehow spying on them. But I feel like that's a little less interesting if it's just a random spy.
Possibly. But I'm just reading your comment, Sky Sayed. I have the 5th subscription, so I'm definitely catching up eventually. I just would like, I'd like to read it physically as well. I can see what you mean by that.
Okay, I'm assuming you aren't bothered by spoilers then, Sky Zed. So thank you for sticking around for this.
All right. Yeah, because we'll get to Mission Yotsuko and Doctor Stone as well.
Yep.
But yeah, we have Maru saying like, do you want me to dispose of him, Mority? And Nico's like, no, you can't do that. We can't take a life ever. Okay, I feel like at some point that's gonna have to be an option.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because at the point of this chapter, it seems like they wanted to find a way to circumvent having to kill those warlocks. So they invented Mahiru for that purpose. And on one hand, I kind of like that the author found a way to sort of organically do it, but it also doesn't feel completely organic because we did it in like 2-3 chapters.
Yeah, which makes me believe again this arc is not over. Like there's something else going to come next chapter, and it's just going to be called Summer Monsters Part 4.
Okay, well, I'll be interested to hear what your thoughts on that when we get to the end, because I have a hard time believing that, honestly.
Because again, they say they've gone away for summer vacation, but that doesn't mean like the summer school vacation is over.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then maybe more summertime events will happen. I mean, I would be happy about that, but we'll get to that near the end, I guess.
Oh yeah, we already had it. I was going to say the fireworks festival, but we already had that.
Yeah, we did. And yes, guys, I'm glad this is making you want to read it more. We're trying to get more people to read Witch Watch.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because the cast from where you left off has just expanded more, and they're all really good characters as well.
Also, the author, if you have the Viz subscription, the author also has another series, Astro Lost in Space, which I highly recommend if you just want to read a complete story. It's a very short one too. It's like 40-something chapters.
Yeah. So we have Nico saying that she feels bad about the enchanter that died because she lived past her normal lifespan when they stole her power, and it'll be a totally different story if we purposely took someone's life. And this is where Nemu gets an idea of like, hey, didn't you say vampires could absorb witches' magic energy? Is it possible for you to take all of it, effectively neutralizing them? And the father's like, oh yeah, that's a feat beyond me, but maybe Mihoria might be able to do it. And they say that unfortunately, absorbing that much magic would also bring it out much of its strength. And he expects they'd still die. But this is where Nico gets an idea of like, if I use healing magic to infuse the warlock with new strength at the same time Mihoria sucks out his magic, wouldn't we be able to neutralize him without killing him? And yeah, pretty good idea. Like using both their abilities to an advantage to like save someone's life.
Yep, I do like the way they creatively go about doing these little things.
Yeah, and finally we get a spell that actually works the first time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because usually Nico's spells they go horribly wrong, but this time no.
I think she's used healing spells before, though. I think that might be it.
Maybe, but no. But it's glad that we actually get. Yeah, Nico can actually use the spell without something going wrong. The only thing is that she faints right after using it.
Yep, that's also true. And then I think this is the first time I found like Mahiru is a character who I'm starting to warm up to a little bit more, but I think it wasn't until like this line on this page 7 where he says, "But are you sure you don't want to watch him slowly shrivel up and turn his eyes turn bright innocent?" And I'm just like, oh my God. I feel if we ever have to kill a character, like you were saying earlier, I feel like it's either going to be Moi, who was like willing to like cut off his legs in the Warlock fight, or it will be Mahiru, who's really messed up in the head.
Yeah. I feel like if there was any character in any series that he would idolize, it would be Mayuri from Bleach.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a way to get Cole to get Wolf out. It's like Maria is a Bleach fanatic and he watches it just for Mayuri.
Yeah, we
but
still
yeah,
need to. We still want to see that Getsuga Tensho thing.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
still do too. It was too funny.
Which, by the way, Sky said, have you got to the point where you've met Wolf Boy yet in the series, or did you not get to that point? I just want to know your thoughts so that we can tell you about his gimmick.
Okay, continuing onward, I think we see Nico and Mahiru sealing away the magic effectively. And this is where Moy comes to a realization, like, this is what the prophecy was talking about. Because if you remember, they came to this place because of a prophecy that said, it's like, oh, we're going to get a weapon that can help us defeat warlocks. And this was it.
Yeah, like Mario was the weapon to defeat warlocks.
And that's the thing with these prophecies in the story. It makes you think one thing, but then it ends up being something else. Like when the rain prophecy, for example, I mean, it was a bit of a Japanese word play thing, but rather than raindrops, it meant candy drops. And here they're talking about like a weapon to defeat warlocks. It was actually a vampire.
Okay.
Pretty creative.
I don't think so. I think I got a little bit past the wind guy, K or whatever is that.
Oh,
all right,
Khan,
so
but yeah. Okay, you're pretty early. You just did like 3
all right,
chapters.
so basically, Wolf Boy, he's basically when he's not in wolf form, he's like Aisawa from My Hero Academia, just like really chill out guy, doesn't really take anything seriously. But whenever he sees a crescent moon, like it doesn't matter what context it's in, as long as it's a crescent moon, he will turn into Grimjow, basically.
Yeah, and these are actually major spoilers, so I'm just hoping you still like enjoyed the series, because I feel like the twists and turns of the story are like the really appealing part, but it's fine. Yeah, at this point.
That's all I'm going to say about his character.
Okay, continuing on. Yeah, both of the Nico and Mahiru faint, and then Mahiru gets some vitality out of Moy.
Yeah. And then we have the warlock saying like, oh, my magic's gone. Am I just a normal human now? And the father's like, oh, it doesn't matter whether it was your witch's blood that brought this misfortune upon you or your life path that led you to darkness. Don't place the blame on others. All that happens is as God's will. If you really do want to start over, stay here and work for the common good. So basically saying like, look, if you want to start over, come and work for us.
Yep, that kind of gives, I guess, the warlock his redemption arc, which, again, I felt a little weird about it because we didn't get to know him too much. We know he tried to commit suicide and then he awakened his powers.
Did we even know his name?
Yes. At like the chapter he came out, I think it was like Ren or something.
Oh, right.
Yuzu. Yeah, it was like at the very end of one chapter they mentioned his name. So, yeah.
Okay. So we cut to later that night where we have Mirio saying that when he was 10, he got hungry in ways that food didn't state, and he found out that the way he could sustain his hunger was by sucking the energy out of other people, and it was an urge he couldn't resist. At first, he got some from his dad, or he'd secretly take some from his friends. By taking it from his friends, meant they get sick for a while. So he tried to only take teeny. So that's kind of like a big red chunk in the armor of it, in like the power system of how his powers actually works.
Yeah, and then we also learned that. Basically, the reason that the whole gag of his dad looking like a very creepy, scary guy was like not a complete accident. It's because he was draining his vitality for years.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder how old his dad actually is.
Yeah, I mean that is a good question. I mean his son is like in middle school, early high school, so he could be anywhere from his late. He could be in his 40s, maybe, unless he had kids really late.
Yeah, but he absorbed this vitality so much that he looks like he's in his 70s or 60s.
Yeah, really. And I mean, I do like that also about this author. He likes to do these fun little gags, which eventually, like, no, there was a point to this.
Yeah, there was. So, what else was that? So we have the yeah, the mother shows up here by say the mother of Mirio says our son did nothing wrong, so it's only natural that the parents take responsibility for their child's need. Yeah. Oh, I love that, the fact that that gag just like she just shows up completely out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, and I mean, people were wondering why he didn't take vitality from his mom, and my theory is that his vampire blood comes from his dad. He's the
Yeah,
exorcist, and so he has the vitality to withstand, years of this kind of drainage. But his mom probably couldn't do too much. She would have started feeling sick pretty quickly. So I think that's why I think he is like he's not a full vampire. I think he's part human.
part human, part vampire. So maybe his mum's like the human and his dad's the vampire.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking because I think that's how the vampire blood keeps getting.
Or maybe his mum's a witch. So that's why
it
she
could be because we were wondering because there is the explanation of why. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's all right.
That Mahiru is the strongest in generations. There could be something we don't know about the mom that she's hiding.
Yeah, maybe she. I'm just gonna throw it out here right now. Maybe she's related to Nemu in some way.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to say because what I was about to say is maybe she's the traitor. It wasn't the dad; it was the mom.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take that theory as well.
Because you were saying that she's a witch, and it's the warlocks that are going after Nico. Sorry, then maybe she's was the one who relayed the information to the warlock.
Maybe
I know they said a man was involved, but it could be that he's working with other witches for some reason. I don't know. Just thought.
Maybe I did have a theory, but I don't know if I should say it.
I mean, why not? I spit all my theories out.
Right. The mom can actually turn into a man.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean wait? You mean Nico's mom, or do you mean this mom?
No, this mom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Nico's mom for a second. I thought it's going to be a dual personality kind of thing where one side's protecting her daughter and the other side is.
You want to know what would be funny as well if Nico was in her cat form, not Nico, Nemu was in her cat form, and a witch could actually hear her in her cat form, and she accidentally relayed what was going on. Like she was just meowing out loud, but the witch could actually hear what she was actually saying.
I mean, I feel like if a witch could do that, that would probably mean that she has like some kind of biological connection to Nemu, considering the cat thing.
Yeah, that's just the theory I'm throwing out there.
Okay.
But yeah, so we have them basically saying that because he consumes too much energy, he's sleeping more and being less active during the day, and this is why Mioriya couldn't go to high school before Moe Moe says that, hey, why don't you come and live with us? Which I feel like is a bit disappointing because I really want it to be Nemu be the one that gets in next.
Yeah, I mean, Luke's big thing. What I was saying before in previous streams is that at the end of most of these serious arcs, we get like a new housemate. And we were thinking that this arc would be the one where we get Nemu finally in. But as it turns out, it was Mahiru.
Yeah, because it's like what people say about One Piece as well. Like, it's a bit of a sausage fest at the moment.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't read One Piece, but I can, from what I know, that sounds right.
Yeah, it's just about who's in the Straw Hat Pirates, because at the moment there's like eight dudes, 2 women.
I mean, in Shonen series in general, it's usually more male predominant cast. I mean, even in Dr. Stone, that's kind of true. And Jujutsu Kaisen, definitely true.
But still, we've got like 4 dudes in the house now, and one woman. Like, we need another female in the house.
Yep, at some point.
Yeah. So we have the explanation of like why he's being recruited into the house. By saying watching him earlier, they realized what the prophecy really meant, and they thought about it and what was about and what was the item to defeat the warlocks before they realized, like, hey, we were meant to come here to find you, and they're like, oh yeah, that's great, you could come to our school next year. And everyone's like, yeah, I have no problem with that, because you've got not just one but 3 young bucks but bursting with vitality to pick from.
Yeah, which is kind of a funny way to put that, but yeah, it is kind of. We had a nice moment with the dad after that.
Oh, you want to know what would be hilarious?
What's up?
If he took Cole's vitality and he just brought out Wolf unintentionally.
Oh yeah, that actually would be kind of interesting, because then there'd be another way to bring out Wolf.
Yeah.
And I think you meant Keigo, but yeah.
Keigo, yeah. Sorry. Kind of hard. There's too many K's in this series.
Yeah, there is. Anyway, so then we get like a moment with his dad, like a pretty sweet moment where like Mahiro was trying to cut himself off from society because of his powers, but now he has an opportunity to get reintroduced to the world, and it's a nice time. I do hope we do more with this character, because like I feel like all of this arc really did was establish like who he is, and
yeah.
But I think there's more we need to do with him in general. Like I think when Keigo we got him, I think we did like a lot more with him and Wolf, but then developed him more. So I hope Mahiro gets the same treatment. Yeah,
maybe. And like I said in the last when we were initially talking about this, honestly, Keigo didn't really need to be. Keigo didn't really need to be there. Like.
What? Oh, well, I mean, no. I think we said Khan didn't really need to be there.
Khan, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Khan, Keigo. Couldn't they have made their names differently?
I mean, in Japanese, probably different enough. Yeah. But yeah, I think it kind of does make sense. Khan really didn't do too much of this particular, and even Nemu didn't do that much. But I think we agreed that we just needed Nemu to be there. One, because if the trader is somehow through Nemu, it would be interesting to learn that, and she had to be there for that reason. Or two, she's just important to involve that fact that she's around and is part of the central cast.
Yeah. She pretty much is part of the central cast at this point. But yeah, so we have the little moment between the father, which was really sweet, and him saying, rather than struggling against what fate has decreed for you, better to just accept and live and enjoy that. And that's a good message to take away from this chapter, because rather than running away and struggling with your problems, just accept it and just enjoy your life to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So we cut 3 days later, where we have everyone basically saying the goodbyes, asking to take care of Miriam, and him saying that he never mentioned it before. When he absorbed someone's vitality, echoes of their emotions came along with it. Oh my god! I feel like that's again is going to come up at some point.
I agree. I feel like it'll be a way that we can either reveal things about characters or reform some villains. Because I feel like once we seal like another warlock, we'll learn more about them each time. That's the way we can get their backstories.
Yeah, because that probably, if he tries to absorb Keigo's vitality, he could hear the echoes of like Wolf's emotion saying, "Let me out."
Yeah, that too. I was more thinking of just villain backstories, but that too.
I know what you're thinking about. Yeah. So they're saying like, and how much you still attract to Mom. Okay, this is kind of awkward.
Yeah, I mean that's part of Mahiru's character. He just says things unnecessarily. It's sweet, but at the same time, it's like, you shouldn't say this about your parents, man. It's just weird.
Yeah. And they even acknowledge it. Yeah, you didn't really need to add that last part. So, like, he's asking his dad how attracted he is to his mom still as a woman.
Yep. Which, I mean, I guess that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. But yeah, they say goodbyes. But they're like, Miriam, you'll. And he's like, "Oh, Dad, please stop it. You'll just make me small." And he's like, "No, that's not what I mean. Watch out for the giant boar that comes out of nowhere."
Yeah. Did you enjoy that gag? I think it didn't. This one, even though it was like set up well, I didn't think it hit. I don't think I liked it much.
It just came out of complete nowhere and just went over my head.
I think the reason it was like that for me is just because when they were screaming Mahiru's name, like I was just like, why are they screaming? They're like right next to him. It's like there's no need to yell. And so then it like I knew something was up before it happened. Like if instead like his dad was also like bawling or something, then it might have worked a bit better. But like his dad was clearly like calling out to him like look out for something.
Yeah, and of course, even though he's immortal, he can still feel pain.
Yeah, I do like that little touch though. That Mahir is has a very low sense of danger, just because he's immortal. I think that's a nice character touch because it probably explains like why he's like so morbid, and additionally, like he gets himself into like all these violent situations, just because like he's immortal. He's not going to die. But
Yeah,
as far as I understand,
yeah,
the
but
immortality.
he can still feel pain.
Yep, he can definitely still feel pain.
Yeah,
And
and of
then he
course,
gets a cookie. I guess that's the thing Moy does, right? He makes cookies.
yeah, he makes cookies, and of course, we end up the chapter with them on the train going home, or so we might think, depending on where the next chapter goes. And they've
Yeah,
got a
you
new
were thinking
resident.
they're going to continue this arc.
I feel they are, but they're just gonna continue it in like a different location.
I
Because it's
mean,
still,
I would like that. I was thinking next would be another more slice of life kind of arc.
I feel like the next chapter it will still be called Summer Monsters Part 4, but the Summer Monster will probably be referring again to Miriam and how others interact with him. Particularly, I feel like the next chapter will probably be like they'll be introducing him to the school, or like getting him indoctrinated into the school.
But
As
if
just
it's
like
still summer break, though, that's the thing.
no, I mean like sort of like, oh, he's there as sort of like just an introduction to get an idea of like, this is the school you're going to, here's the student council, and they'll probably see him as the monster because he's immortal.
Yeah, I think you were saying the student council would like him on the council just because he's really crazy.
I know, but again, I feel like they'll at first think of him as like a monster. Like, this crazy kid is immortal. Like, what the hell? We need to exterminate him.
I still feel like that'd be kind of weird because there's already like an Oni and a witch
But that would
already
be
in school.
that would be the joke of it. It's like, yeah, this is not the weirdest thing we've come across in this school. We don't care.
I don't know. I'm still not sure if I see that, but I could see the student council coming back for sure soon. I was thinking the next chapter though, unless we do skip past summer, then I definitely see that if you skip past summer. But if the summer vacation's still happening, I would imagine they would do more summer vacation stuff.
Yeah. Maybe it might be a case of Nico's mom makes an appearance.
That could be it. I mean, that could be it.
Yeah.
We haven't seen her in a while.
Yeah, because I feel like she'll probably turn up and be like, "Hey, how's the progress going along here?"
Yep. I mean, we'll definitely see. Because I was thinking slice of life stuff, but if we get more warlocks, that would be better. Especially if we get more into the central mystery of things.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't. I mean, I still feel like I can see why you would say that, just because it feels like 3 parts is too short for a serious arc. But then at the same time, it feels like the note they ended on makes it feel like the arc's over. So
Maybe, but we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, I think that's it for Witch Watch.
Witch Watch, yeah. So I feel like we can move on to talking about Mission Yosakura Family.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, when I say this is my chapter of the week, it ties with Dr. Stone.
Oh, okay.
I should clarify it. It ties with Dr. Stone. So yeah, it's hopefully you're still here, Sky Sayed, because we're talking about Mission Yosakura now.
Okay, you can go for it.
All right, so anyone who knows me knows that I adore Ai's character. Just like she's my second favorite character after Futaba. So
so the fact that we had a dedicated Ai chapter, I knew we would love it.
Yeah, I was as soon as I saw Ai on that page, and I was like, Ai's Eren. Okay, yeah, I'm enjoying this chapter. So we start off with her just singing away. I love the fact that she's just singing, just like a song about her. Like, Ai has some very sharp ear. I can't even do the song.
That's fine. You don't have to sing it.
But yeah, what I love most about this chapter is that it just shows the progression of Ai's character. as well, because because she's gone from someone so isolated that when she moved into a different location, she didn't know how to behave. But now she's like an official member of the family and sort of acting just as crazy as they are.
Yeah, she really is.
Yeah, and I love the fact I love as well that Mutsumi and Tayo are just observing her. Like they're not really. These are like these disguises would make Keigo embarrassed.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah, like he'll be like. I'm surprised they didn't bring up that in the shops. Like if Keigo saw us like that, what would he say? He'd be like, guys, you're not doing the right. You've not even got the right skin tone to be trees. So basically, the premise of this chapter is that the whole idea of this chapter is that Mutsumi is still sick after the whole attack from the fifth Yosakura head. So Tayu's having to do her job right now in the house. Before he still needs to dry the sheets, wash the windows, tidy up the library, weed the garden, organize it. I'm like, oh my word, how much did Mutsumi have to do?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but the thing is, I think that's been her whole character. While everyone else is going on mission, she's been the housewife.
Yeah. Oh, and I just want to say, like Sky Sayed, of course I am. I is so adorable. Yes, she is. And again, like I've been saying, this is what I feel like Spy X Family needs to do, because Anya in Spy X Family is not developed at all, whereas I is.
Yeah, even the latest Spy X Family really doesn't even have much of Anya. It was like between Lloyd and Bond, which was a cute chapter, but I don't know why they did 2 chapters for it.
I know it wasn't needed, but yeah. So yeah, I just want to say, Sky Sayed, thanks for being here throughout the whole stream. I really appreciate it. But yeah, continuing on, Tayo is saying like they're going to be having Matsumi's favorite meal tonight on that night, which is tonkatsu pork cutlets, and this is where Ai comes in. It's like she loves that, and she'll go and buy the recipe for them, and they're like, "Oh, will you be all right on your own?" And she's like, "Of course, me and Matsuri go there all the time," and Tayu's obviously worried about her, because even though she's really enthusiastic about it, she's still like 5 years old.
Yeah, I actually don't know how old she is.
Actually,
you can go check this out if you want.
Yeah, let me just quickly check it. How old is I?
Okay, well, you do that. I'm just gonna keep talking. So we got I, and she's ready to take on this.
Close. She's 6 years old.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, you can pick up where you left off. Then.
Yeah, so she's like rolling around, basically being like that kid having a, I won't say temper tantrum, but being like, "Oh, please, 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 let me go," and he's like, "Oh, all right," and basically being the responsible parents that they are, it's like, okay, at the traffic lights, raise your hand. Yeah, raise my hand. Ask a police officer. If you see strangers, toss them away. And yeah, Tayu, that came back to bite you in the arse later in the chapter.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice setup though. I will admit that was a good setup for a joke.
Yeah. And of course, even though Mutsumi is like, "Oh yeah, let her go out and do this mission." Tayu, she's obviously worried about her as well, to the point that she puts on like an even worse disguise than the tree disguise.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah. And Tayu basically brings up a good point. Yeah, change your clothes first.
Yep, also important. Tayu's a good husband.
Yeah. Again, I'm waiting for the moment where it's like we get the chapter where Ai is properly adopted. Like we get the panel that says, "New member of the family, Ai Yotsukura." I just want that panel.
And I mean, we've talked about this. I think the series is definitely pushing more towards the family dynamics I have with Mutsumi and Tayo as a childlike figure. But I think that one, and I think you actually even posted like that moment as like a nominee for the best of 2021. Just the fact that Tayo just said, like, let's start by being friends is still important enough that they don't need to rush into it.
Yeah, but the fact that, and I'll get into it, why we need that later in the chapter as we'll go along. So we have, I go into the butcher shop, but there's like, oh, there's no meat there. There's no meat there, and I feel like based on the end of this chapter, it's like the reason why there's no meat there is because the Yozakura eat through 3 months worth of supplies in like one day.
I mean, yeah, that's actually probably a good point.
That's what Manga Project said in that when I watched their bit on Yozakura family.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So we have the butcher telling I where to go next, and she's like, "Okay, I'm off." And basically doesn't even just walk. She runs. She gets in touch with her animal instincts and runs like a dog. And we see Tayu and Matsuri just doing a chase with her. Like, oh, she's so fast, we're gonna lose her. We get I talking to various other people, including my favorite one, where they're like. Where we have her talking to various police officers, and they're like, "The food you're looking for is the last stop on the train line," and she's like, "Oh, so I can just take the road?" And she's like, faster than the train itself.
Yep, that was a pretty fun moment.
So it makes me wonder, how fast is I?
I mean, she's like pretty insanely fast. I'm pretty sure she's probably the fastest Yozakura by that alone.
Yeah, just by that feat alone, and then. She gets. Honestly, for a second, I thought this guy was Ban.
Oh, yeah, I could see that too. But in Sky's ads, Yo's fan monologues were on point last year. For me, I think the monologue I pointed out that was like the best was like Suika's monologue from Dr. Stone. I think Yuno also had like a really good monologue.
Yeah,
in Space Kingdom.
It was tough between the Suika monologue and the monologue, but I felt like I just felt like, the Tayo one hit a little bit harder.
Yeah, I mean, Yozakura, I feel like had really good dialogue for sure. Monologues, I think there was probably a couple that were like good, but I feel like the dialogue's stronger, which makes sense because of the kind of story it is. But that's kind of nitpicking.
Yeah, that is. So we have swimming across, and of course, Tayo, being the loving cosmo he is. It's like, no, you're not going to swim with me. I'm gonna have you on my back while I swim across the river to get to the red.
That reminds me of Dr. Stone when Taiju was carrying Senkyu and Yuzuriya.
Well, he wasn't really carrying them. He was like pulling a lot. He was pulling a raft up. Yeah,
but I mean, it's pretty close.
Yeah, but Tayo is the raft in this scene.
I nominated Kurochiro's one to Tayo in the spy exam. Yeah, I did see that one actually, and I will agree that was a really good chapter just for Kyuchiro's monologue. I think that was one of his highlighted moments. So I'll give you that one. That was a good nomination.
I'll give you that one, even though Koichiro isn't really in my top 10 characters of the series.
Yeah, it was a really good monologue. I think I still like Suika's more from where it led to, but
so
that's just me.
Yeah, so we get I going into the mountain regions to look for this wild boar known as the Ogi pig, and I didn't even know this before watching the Manga Project stream, but the pig is a reference to Princess Mononoke.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it's the same pig. If you type it into Google, the name of it, and just Princess Mononoke will come up. So that was a nice touch of detail there. So it was domesticated for its rich flavor and became a local specialty in the region. But the large ones that grew in these abundant forests are renowned as rare luxury foods. And we have eating meat that she where she got that meat from. Oh yeah, because she was eating it. Oh yeah, she caught the boar at the beginning of the chapter, so that's where she got it from. So yeah, we see her eating the meat that she cooked. It's amazing how she can actually cook meat herself.
Yeah, I guess she learned a lot.
Yeah. So she can't understand. There's so much kanji that she can't understand, but the old man that she talked to said that it was the place that she's in, and she's going to be catching the awesome meat. And again, Mutsumi just getting over emotional here because she's Ai's collecting ingredients with her own hands, and she can't believe that they get to see Ai mature like this out on an errand. And of course, and and the fact that she's just able to identify the edible inedible mushrooms just by tasting them a little bit is incredible as well. And like the poison doesn't affect her as much as it would any other person as well.
Yep. I mean, that mushroom scene did remind me also of like when Senku was like sorting out food.
I know,
but except he wasn't doing it through taste; he was doing it through science. But still,
yeah. I love the fact that she's like edible, inedible, edible, but yucky. It's like It's like even some things I can't stand.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense though.
Yeah, and we have Matsuri and Tayu basically debating like, oh, should we give her a hand? But they're like, let's keep her exploring for a while before she does what any person has done when they're in a forest. Hey, have we passed this tree before? Yeah, so she is lost at this point, and then she's like, oh, I'll just get an officer to help me. But quick reminder, there aren't any out there. And this is where we get Tayu disguising himself and completely masking his smell, so he can pretend to be a local and get her help, which is something that I remember I actually had to point that out to you.
Yeah, you did. Although it's kind of strange a bit later, as what I was able to sniff him up close a bit later, so it didn't completely mask it, but whatever.
But enough.
He masked it enough that like wasn't recognizable. So yeah, because one of my things was like, I just missed that line the first time I read
it. Don't tell Sacred Hero that, lol. I know, because Koichiro is his favorite character. I know his profile picture.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, Sacred Hero like really enjoys characters like Yuno and Koichiro that I think most people don't have as like their top characters, but are still like big enough that I think and distinct enough that it fits like a certain persona, and I think it does work for him specifically.
Yeah. And this was the point. Before we get to the point I was talking about earlier, we get any strangers toss them away, and she's remembering her lessons. So yeah, Tayo, you're kind of regretting to give her that lesson at this point. But yeah, the point I was making about with Ai being officially adopted is this line here that she says that she sniffed him up close. He has the same smell like Ai's family. So the fact that she now has gone from being friends to actually seeing as like, this is my family, makes me believe like we need the moment where she's actually officially adopted.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that point.
Yeah. So we have Tayu as this old guy asking her, so you came out because the butcher was sold out, and is your family worried about them? It's fine to get carried away. We're running an errand, but you should head over. And I doesn't agree with him because the meat is so tasty. It makes you want to eat. It makes you want to eat. If you eat it, it makes you well. So I has to take some back home, and he's asking like, why go to all the trouble? And this is when we get just like the best moment out of all the chapters this week. This probably was the best moment of the chapters for me, because because Ai's been around them for, even though she's not been around them a long time, she's been around with them long enough to know that there is something off with them, because when they came back after the attack by the fifth head, she knew that there was something. Just the smell of them made her feel like, there's something going on here, and I don't want to have them. I don't want to be a burden to them. I don't want them to be asking. I don't want to be asking them favors, and that she loves them both so much, and she wants to do the best for them on this end. And I was just like, oh, that will hit you in the feels.
Yep, it was a really beautiful moment, and so I can see why you ranked it a little high for yourself. I mean, for me, I think slice of life chapters usually rank a little lower for me, especially in stronger weeks like this week. but it was a sweet moment for I.
Yeah, and also as well, it's just the fact that whenever the author, when he does like these really emotional panels, he really hits you with like the art style as well.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, um, and and we get Tayu and Mutsumi being like, "Oh, she's growing up so fast." Basically, like the parents like, "Oh, my kid is growing up so fast." Before we have Tayu saying, "All right, then keep at it until you're satisfied, but don't stay out too long, or you'll worry the people back home." And this is where I gets a sense of the boy itself before running away, and time it's me saying, let's wait at the station at the foot of the mountain, and she comes back with like the boar, like not even flinching, and this boar is like massive.
Yep. I
Yeah.
mean, I think what's also nice about this chapter is the fact that it does establish like I being very capable, which will be
yeah.
important if they're going to bring her more into the
I feel
battlefield later.
I feel they will bring her into the battlefield more later, because physically, just from this panel, I'd say she's physically stronger than I'd say Keigo, Futaba, and possibly Korichiro physically.
Yeah, probably. Honestly,
Yeah, I was gonna say no, but no, he can basically turn into a Hulk, and Shinzo is quite beefy.
yeah, but I think she could probably still eventually. She's still a kid, so if she
Yeah.
gets older, she'll probably be stronger.
Yeah, and if she goes through the spy training as well, that'll make her a phenomenal.
I mean,
like,
we did see her do some spy training before.
she did like, but like as much as Tayo's gone through.
Yeah, but I think that might be implied to be happening in the background, which I think is a smart idea because I feel like Yozakura in its first year, it really did a lot of spy training focus, which is important. You know, you have to develop your main character, but I think it also kind of like really slowed things down.
Okay, fair enough. But again, I always like to compare. I always like to compare this because it's funny how the little kid characters in Shonen at the moment are like physically stronger than Senku.
Oh yeah.
So like Senku will probably be like, I can't lift this up, and then he sees I honestly wanted to see a crossover between I and Suika as like her kid design, and Senku be like, how are you two lifting these things? This is ridiculous. But yeah, so we get the end of the chapter, which for Boyo or Blazing Stand said that he actually didn't notice that the meat was eaten in completely one night, and when I showed him that, he was like, "This family is crazy."
Yep.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah, cute slice of life chapter, and I'm hoping that we get more Eye on the battlefield at some point.
Yeah, and what I will say is these slice of life chapters are at least more integrating like story elements because every time we get a slice of life chapter, they bring in what's going on in the story right now. And I do think, and this is I think a very recent phenomenon. So I think Yozakura has like really come into its own after what's it been like 2 years by now in its publication?
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, so I think especially the last year it's built up, and even going into its third year, it's getting even better. So
yeah.
Hopefully it has like a very strong future ahead of itself because with all these series ending, Yozakura is going to be like one of the oldest in the magazine.
I know it is. Somebody actually said to me on Twitter that they feel that Yozakura is actually ending, like it's in its climax.
And
no.
I mean, like I can see why they would say that because Tsubame, if I'm saying that right, feels like very much like an endgame kind of villain because she's like the original Yozakura. And I can see why people would say that if we're fighting like, 5 people and then we have to fight her, then where can the story go? But I think the story could still keep going if it really wants to. Because for one thing, Tayo, is only like silver rank at this point. He still has to do like his gold rank test at some point.
I could see it just as being the first. Yeah, I could definitely see that because we still need to know like exactly why his family died.
Yeah, that too. I think they touched on it earlier. I forget. But yeah, I think there's more to learn about his family. That is a good point.
And
So
also, if Subumi's taken care of, then that leaves Momo to potentially take over.
So, yeah, we have, I think, a fair amount of story left. I'm not saying it'll necessarily go on for like 10 years or anything, because I feel like
No,
modern shonen in general has proven that's going to be shorter. But I could see Yozakura at least going on for another 2 years or a year and
I
a
would
half.
say
I
I
don't
would
know.
say it going on for as long as My Hero.
My Hero started in 2015 or something.
Yeah, like I'd say like around the
So, like,
250 to like 350 mark, like between there.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can see that, because I was gonna say My Hero's like over 300. I don't know if I see that, but that's
yeah,
fine. But like a little under 300, which is like around Dr. Stone levels. I can
yeah,
see that.
yeah. So the side characters has also hardly got any development. Yeah, yeah, and we need to see like more development from other characters.
Yeah, I do feel like the family's gotten a good amount of development, but I
Yeah,
see what you mean. Like the other characters outside the family really haven't. Which, if Yozakura had like a weakness, it would probably be that. But I don't think those characters are even that important to begin with. But
yeah.
I would love to see
Two,
my guy Sosuke back. He's one of my
yeah.
favorites.
250 to 300 is reasonable. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yep,
Yeah.
I think if it was 250, that would be like a good place for the story to be at. Because like
Okay.
the
Um.
next,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say. So we have like a couple more heads to meet, and so that'll be like a good like couple of chapters. Maybe like that'll be the rest of the year, say, and then maybe we can get into Sabumi like the following year.
Yeah.
That by itself is already like 60ish chapters, and then we could have like a whole arc after that. Frankly.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. But yeah,
Hochigama is too hyped. Is that the author's name?
I feel like it is.
To not do anything. He's constantly portrayed. Oh, never mind. That's one of the characters.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, if you're saying go back and use some of the other characters, I could see that. That would be a great way to continue the series, frankly, because at this point, I think the family has been thoroughly explored. So this would be a good way to explore the rest of Spy Society.
Oh, the
And then
police.
we were thinking about international spies at one point, because I feel like series like My Hero kind of dropped the ball on that. Jujutsu Kaisen has effectively said, like recently, that they're not even going to bother anything outside of Japan. So, and then Doctor Stone, what it did internationally was
Yeah.
not the best. So Yozakura could like finally break that mold of there are other countries that we could do a lot more with.
Maybe there's like international members of the Osakura family.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say Spy Society internationally, but sure, why not?
Yeah. So that's just my theory.
Sosuke reeks of a big character arc. Yeah, I really think Sosuke has like some of the most potential. Frankly, they spent so much time on his character at one point. And I just like him a lot because he's fun.
Okay. But yeah, so that's it for Mission Yotsuko Family, and now we'll move on to the big finale, Doctor Stone.
Yes, we will. Another time. I think my chapter of the week for this set of chapters is actually Sakamoto Days, just because it was like a really awesome chapter. Lots of like we're having like the main character fight the final villain and whatnot, but I think Doctor Stone was a close second.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, I gotta say, first thing, this title page. One thing I didn't point out in my review when I did the review was like how how the rocket has left the atmosphere as the sun is rising up, which is a nice touch.
Oh, it is, yeah. I didn't even realize that till you just pointed.
Yeah. So we have the going through the passage of time, which honestly reminded me so much of the season 2's ending. Did you ever
yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Like how it was going through the passage of time, and then it got to Baba Senku in the modern day. and then him getting frozen and everything. That kind of reminded me. So it's, if that was intentional, that's kind of a nice touch. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
actually, I didn't even think about that. That's a good
Yeah.
point.
And again, what I love most about this paneling is like it's just showing the advances of where we've actually come through the story of like, oh, we get the Stone World, then we get Senku chasing that deer, then we get him doing the Iron Pump level 1 with Koraku Senku with Koraku Chrome and Suika, and then going to the Power Engine level 1. And
Yep.
and him just interacting with Sinu, like just getting those panels in was great as well. As we get Byakuya's flashback from on Treasure Island, humanity's going to make a comeback. You'll see. Until the day we're eating ramen in space again, you can count it. And of course, we're finally at that day, because the next panel, 6 and 7, absolutely beautiful.
Yep. It was just like an amazing color spread. I think this chapter in general has like some of the best artwork we've even seen. And yeah, this panel is like a good, or this double spread is like a good example of it.
Yeah.
I put Dr. Stone as like the double spread of the year.
Oh yeah, definitely, no question about that. Like we had in South America, just like the double spread of the pyramid.
Yep. We also had like a future boat. We even had some like, not like for artistic value panels, but like some fun storytelling ones I think people forgot about. So I posted those as examples. So yeah, I think honestly Dr. Stone like at least deserves that one, even if it doesn't get manga of the year because other stuff's more popular, like One Piece or something. I don't read One Piece, so I've heard that one's been really good last year. But I think at least for the artwork alone, like either the color pages or the double spreads, like it deserves like an awards for these, because I don't see any other series like really touching it in that sense.
Feel like
maybe My Hero at moments, but
I feel like the best art will definitely go to Dr. Stone, but I feel like more than likely the best color spreads, the best color pages will go to Mission Yosakura Family.
Yosakura had some really good ones, I will say.
So then
I think even then Dr. Stone's still my favorite, but that's just because a few of the color pages I wasn't super huge on for Yosakura, but that's a different story.
Fair enough. So we have Senku being revived all alone in space, and he's just seeing like his reflection in his eye for seeing like the vacuum of space. That must be a sight to behold.
Now that I think about it, with the text all alone being emphasized, Senku has like this weird thing where I think he's almost a little afraid of being alone, because when he first woke up, he was by himself when he was petrified. In Treasure Island, when he beat Abara, he had this moment where he was like almost terrified of how alone he felt until Ruri called him.
Oh, that is an interesting take to take it.
Yeah, I just thought of that just now.
Maybe that's why Senku was so keen on him being up there and being petrified on the moon, so that he didn't have to go through that notion of being alive but alone again in the world.
That could be it. That's an interesting take.
Yeah. So we have him questioning why the others are petrified, and and this is where people I think got the idea of like Sinu might have been the traitor all along, but no, it's actually much more emotional than that, as we'll soon see. And this is the thing that I was confused why they didn't bring this up in the manga project video. The fact that Senku's lost his scars now.
Did they not?
They did not mention that at all.
It's been a while since I saw that, but okay, I'm a little surprised, because I think the lack of scars is like the big thing. And I guess this is a good moment to talk about that. So I have one theory that I brought up with Luke last time. It's a little complicated, but here's how it goes. Senku, as we knew after Treasure Island, he was able to keep his scars, and the thought at that point was he didn't like completely petrify. He freed himself before he could be fully. So that's why he kept his scars then. And then after South America, we saw that he kept his scars for some reason. Now, my thinking at the time was that, okay, so maybe because he was petrified, he prematurely stopped petrification on Treasure Island. It caused the Medusa to register his scars as part of his body. So then when he woke up, that's why Senku preserved his scars and why most people did not otherwise. And then the reason that he loses them here is because the Medusa had accidentally went off in Japan recently with Gen and Yo. And when it went off at that time, I thought that maybe the Medusa had gone through some sort of reset mechanism, and that reset mechanism no longer recognizes the scars as part of Senku's body. Now, I have heard an alternate theory that I think is more simple than mine, which I almost like it because it's more simple. It's just the fact that where Senku's scars were just like a weak spot for his body. And so because of that, and the fact that he had them after Treasure Island, it just was easier for over a 7-year period for those scars to reform there. Similar to Xenu and Stanley, and that's why they kept their scars partially, because they had scars prior to. So the erosion was able to more easily adapt. And so when they woke up, those erosions just happened at those weak spots. I would say one problem I had with that theory is the fact that Leonard and I think Charlotte lost their scars completely, but that could have just been by chance. Okay.
That could have been just by chance, yeah.
So I do kind of like that theory. I mean, that theory is a little more simple than crazy stuff I came up with, but I do think the fact that Senku lost his scars is very important here, at least symbolically.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like it's symbolic of the fact that they're in the final stages of the battle against Y-Man, so it's kind of like they're free of Y-Man now, pretty much.
Okay, that is true. I was thinking more because the chapter started with going back to the modern era, that Senku has reverted back to his old self.
Okay, that could be the case.
Yeah, but I think both are valid.
Yeah. So we have Xenu explain that liquid doesn't flow normally in zero gravity, so he considered that there might be a glitch with the revival fluid, and he precautioned his scheduled revival a bit early before. Senku was like, "Oh, you could have left it at that." Before he realizes what Xenu was actually trying to say, and he's like, "Sure, let's leave it at that." And this is where Gen gets the idea in his head of like, "Oh yeah, Xenu was once friends with Byakuya, and he's actually giving Senku this moment to himself to be in space and just like Senku, it's all right if you want to cry, do it now." And I love that moment. Like, but one thing I would have loved is the fact, like I said in my review, is that in that panel where it says "a moment to weep freely," if a visage of Byakuya was there by Senku's side.
Yeah.
Because that would have been powerful. Because I feel like one of the things that Senku probably wanted to do at some point was to go into space with Byakuya.
Yeah, it was, and it's like I'm glad that we still keep Byakuya as an important part of the story, even after all this.
Yeah. I'm glad of that. But that got me a little bit, like Senku, like just staring, like he's finally got his goal, like he's gone to space.
Yep, he really is, and that's awesome.
Yeah. So now we have Stanley reviving, and of course, Stanley being Stanley, the first thing that he does is like, okay, the first thing I'm gonna do after reviving is just stick a cigarette in my mouth.
Yeah, that's addiction for you.
Yeah. And Senku's like, "Oh, not a little shot that I'm up before you," and it's like, okay, you knew I was gonna wake up before you, didn't you, Stanley? And you and Cedar cooked up this little plot. Creeps me out having you all do origami, and Senior and Stanley being the fun parent figures to Senku at this point. Yeah. And then Stanley tries to obviously knock it off by saying, "Oh, you're just going soft in the head, Senku. I'm a soldier simply following orders." But yeah, let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, and I do like that moment because, like, the last chapter we saw that Stanley had formed like a bond with the other characters and come to appreciate them, and I think this is that, but with Stanley and Senku. Yeah. I kind of wish we could have seen that more. Granted, I feel like that is one of the weaker parts of this final arc of Dr. Stone, is just the fact that they kind of shortcut a few things to get the bigger stories plot lines along. I wish we could have had more character moments with Stanley, but it's nice to at least show us that Stanley has grown to care about these characters more.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree that there could have been more character moments beforehand, because it just feels weird now having the characters separated again in like the biggest way possible.
Yep.
But we have Senior explained that the 21st century they once made plans for a spaceship with no window, but word has it that the pilots protested. Yeah, I'm not blooming surprised.
Yep.
Like, who would come up with that? Who would actually think that that's a good idea? Like, you're going into space, you want to be able to see that view, because I believe the manga project people said that astronauts have been asked like what's when they first see space for the first time, what's their reaction? And it's like they're almost brought to tears because of how beautiful it is.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I think most of us would be moved by such a sight.
Yeah, and this is where we get Kohaku being revived. But I love the panel with Senku and Stanley. It's like, do we really want to revive her because you know what's going to happen?
Yep.
Yeah, which of course it's basically just a fangasm reaction. Again, if this was Chrome, like I said before, if this was Chrome on Suika, they'd probably be bawling their eyes out.
Yeah, and I think the reviewers I've seen pointed out that it's nice to see all these various different reactions to space that is very in character, but also diverse.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you, Stan. Chrome would definitely have been in tears because of how much he just loves science.
Yeah, and of course he was in tears when they were in the hot air balloon. So he'd probably be in tears for about an hour.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. So we have Kawaku saying there's no up and down. My body feels lighter, and Senku's like, "Oh, you're getting too excited, Lioness. Oh, come on, Senku, you're the one who should be the most excited."
Yep.
But yeah, we have Senku obviously giving them the space ramen, which again, anime onlys can give them a pat on the back that they actually got this before the manga did.
Yeah, and I did want to say something about this, particularly the space ramen. So I think the trivia pointed out that when we see Francois making the space ramen stuff, like with the spray drying system or whatever, it's a bit of a different mechanism than what they did in the anime with insta freezing, essentially. So I feel that's kind of interesting because it's almost like they canonically brought back in this invention, but in a different way than the anime did. But I think at the same time, we can still say, I mean, I think you can still consider that canon at this point that they had space ramen and they just reinvented it. At least that's how I'm going to interpret it because it's better that way.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Because once they get to adapting this, they don't even need to like do like all this. They can just be like, "Oh, hey, it's that space ramen we made during the war arc."
Yeah, they can pretty much bring that up if we ever get to this point in the anime.
Yep. Actually, I would like to just see. You know, they could do is since they already invented the space ramen beforehand, they could just like bring it around with them at times, like when they travel, and then it could just be like tie-ins, like we could finally eat the space ramen in space.
Yeah, which is a nice touch as well to what to Shamil and Byakuya, how they wanted to eat ramen in space again before all that went down.
Yep, and I'm glad like a lot of this stuff is paying off. I think that's one thing this arc's doing incredibly. Like a lot of things are just paying off that we've seen / established before. Because I feel like, well, like a series like My Hero are kind of just like, okay, we have a million things to do after all these years. Let's just like randomly bring in back all these stuff at points. Dr. Stone has just been steadily like bringing things back as needed and tying it together with current events. It feels like a much more natural conclusion comparatively. Yeah. And like what Fire Force is doing is, well, it's just kind of more just going with a more epic conclusion kind of stuff. But they're also tying in a few things with like the newest chapter just came out today.
Okay, all right. So yeah, we have Senku explaining that the flavors they savored on they're the same flavors that they savored on the International Space Station, and this is where we get confirmation of what actually happened to it. Like, obviously, we saw it briefly in the anime again, but this is something that's actually been confirming that the International Space Station is basically gone. So yeah, pretty much confirming that the Byakuya reboot now is officially non-canon.
Now, I have seen some people say, and not just one, but a couple of people mention that in the next panel, Kohaku said, "Is that so?" And like some people have said that she, with her incredible crazy vision, might have seen something out in space that Stanley and Senku had missed just because she had crazy vision. So she might have seen something that she thought when she's looking out the window in this scene. And like, could that be maybe the International Space Station, or could it be like something they're gonna deal with pretty soon?
Because Stanley did mention that they'll need, if they actually get into space and there's like something in space before they actually get to the moon. Stanley did mention that at one point.
Oh, I don't remember that, but that is definitely something to be concerned about.
Yeah, that is something to be concerned about as well. But Senku's basically trying to forget that because, as they said, the old space station was what was also launched piecemeal into space, so the parts could dock once in orbit, and this is where we actually get the parts of the big rocket, basically the rocket that's Suiko and Chrome designed, basically coming up and connecting to the capsule that Stanley, Kaku, and Senku were in, as to get Senku thinking, we've blasted away from our tiny world, from a stone world to a science-faring civilization. Now, this line might actually indicate that there's not just the Y-Man on the moon, there's actually like some other people on the moon as well.
Wait, what makes you say that?
It's just like the fact that the spacefaring civilization, it might actually be indicating that there's more than just the Y-Man on the moon.
I mean, wait, I thought the spacefaring civilization line was just they're saying that they started from Stone World and now they're capable of space travel. I'm not sure.
All right. Yeah, that's just me just making. That's probably just me making up stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I could see there. I mean, there's a couple things about why man could be. People have thought about an AI, but if it's like, it also could just be an organization. So I don't deny that that could be a possibility. I just don't think that's what that line means.
All right, fair enough. But
yeah, so it looks like next chapter we're going to be making the return rocket effectively.
Yeah, making the return rocket in space. In space. They said the manga project people were actually debating how long this point in just the vacuum of space is going to be before they actually step foot on the moon.
Yeah, so I do remember that. They said it would probably be like 2 chapters, and I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but it makes me think like how long the actual confrontation with Y-Man is going to be as well.
Yeah, I mean, because we do know where Y-Man is, so we know where to land the rocket. But then the other thing is, one, like basically the question is, what will go wrong? Will something go wrong in building this space piece rocket? Will they meet some did Kohaku actually see something they're going to have to deal with pretty soon? Or is it going to be like a very smooth, like, okay, the rocket's built, let's get to the moon, and then let's land on the moon in 2 chapters, and then we go find Y-Man. That's kind of what depends to get there. And then actually meeting Y-Man, I don't know what kind of resistance he'll put up, but we do have like weapons, so there has to be used somehow or other.
Yeah, because there's no way that as much as Shonen Oji likes to hype this up, there's no way there's gonna just be talk Nujutsu on the moon.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't rule that out as a possibility.
Yeah, but I don't think Y-Man, even if there is talk Nujutsu, I don't think Y-Man is going to be particularly interested in listening to what Senku has to say.
I mean, the fact is, though, like, except for Ibarra, most of the villains have, like, effectively reformed one way or another in Dr. Stone. Because no one was, like, truly evil again except for Ibarra.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If the Y-Man is an AI, it can't reform as much. It can't reform in the same way that Tsukasa, Sinu, and Stanley can reform.
Yeah, it's also true. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, yes, I think Shonoji's original thing was like bringing up some conversations about humanity, which was an interesting idea.
Yeah.
But considering the crew we have right now, that doesn't fit.
Yeah, I still feel like my personal theory is that the AI is that the Y-Man is an AI, but I'd say it could be ending even the next batch or the batch after that. What do you mean, Sky Syed? And also you might want to say that quickly because we'll be wrapping up in a bit. Because we've been talking for 4 hours.
Yeah, I just noticed that myself.
Yeah. But yeah, my personal theory about what Y-Man is that it's I've always had this fear of like it's an AI, but it's also like because you know how people are like can have like their brainwaves hooked up to machinery.
Yep.
It's like a human that's hooked up to machinery, so it's like half AI, half human.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, the theory. I mean, that would also, of course, beg the question of how they preserve like brain matter for that long, unless they digitize the mind itself.
Maybe they digitized, and maybe it was like maybe it's like an effect of the Medusa as well on them. Like that is
true because the statues can keep thinking while they're still petrified.
So maybe it petrified itself and did, but like it was still connected to like the AI, whatever computer network is on the moon.
Yeah, I mean that would kind of fit. New form of immortality. Interesting.
Sorry, sorry, I meant as in when they decide to bring in new series, it could be it'll be in the next turnover, or if we go longer, depending on what happens with Y-Man. Yeah, I don't see Y-Man. I don't see them meeting Y-Man for like I want to say another like 5 to 10 chapters.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I can see it in 5 more chapters, maybe a little more, depending if we have issues on space. That sounds right. And but that still means we'll definitely meet up with Y-Man before the Ryusui special comes in. So that'll be
maybe. Maybe it depends when the Ryusui special actually airs.
Oh, did we not? Oh, sorry. I thought we confirmed that for summer.
Summer, but
well, if we say summer is June, even like 10 weeks from now is still like
good point.
Months.
Good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that was Dr. Stone, and that was the end of our chapter discussions. Really, really long one this week, but thoroughly enjoyed it, and thank you for staying to the end, Sky Side. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and to your comment, I can see what you're saying. Like we could have like a new series come in as these old series die out. I feel like the next batch though won't be for a little bit, just because we already have PPP whatever and Doraemon as well as Ayashimon going on right now, as well as another random Protect Me series that we're not reading.
Yeah.
So I think it won't be until like maybe summertime that we'll get the next batch, and by that point some of those might get axed, like that Protect Me series might get axed, and then we'll just like try to renew them. And then I think these series, they'll end like near the end of the year, where we'll get our second batch. That's where I'm thinking.
Yeah, and no
it's
problem.
Only 2 p.m. for me. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it's dinner time for me where I'm at.
Yeah, it's 1 a.m. for me as well. It's 1 a.m. for me at the moment. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here. But Sky Syed, as always, we will be talking next Sunday about the chapters that come out then. So until then, see you then if you're able to make it. So see you later, guys.
Bye.